Nazina lowered his eyes. His hand gripped the hilt of the blade. If we want him to keep quiet, I suppose I have no choice but to kill him. Gao-chun parted her lips slightly. Kill me? Nazina raised the knife and stood there expressionlessly. A cold gleam ran along the blade. Gao-chun clenched both hands. This is too cruel. With her hands bound behind her back, Gao-chun thought, am I really going to die like this? The timeline turns back. Beneath the eaves of the palace, red lanterns hung high, and a grand celebration was underway. Turum wore a red ceremonial robe, with Nazina following close behind. The two waved to the crowd. This was the wedding of the young Emperor Turum and Princess Nazina of a neighboring kingdom. A magnificent political marriage. It should have been a symbol of peace between the two nations, yet there was not the slightest trace of joy on the groom's face. Nazina wore splendid formal attire, with a hairpin in his hair. In this palace, there was a tradition. During a proposal or marriage, a hairpin was given as a gift. Turum placed the hairpin on Nazina. If the recipient wore it, it meant they had accepted the marriage. Turum and Nazina stood side by side, waving to the people. They vowed to cherish one another for life, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Long live the emperor! Long live the empress! From within the crowd, Gao-chun looked up at them. She gazed at the celebration in the distance. Nazina stood tall and straight. Standing among the flowers, Gao-chun widened her eyes. I have never seen anyone so beautiful. Holding a wooden box in her hands, Gao-chun thought, even the wedding garments are stunning. Her Majesty the Empress is like a goddess out of legend. She lowered her gaze. But Empress Nazina, now seated as queen, was a princess from the distant overseas kingdom of Yufei. This marriage between the emperor and the only princess of Yufei was called the Union of the Century. Yet there was a reason behind this so-called century-defining marriage. Over the past 10 years, things had only just calmed down. The Bansa Empire and the Yufei Kingdom had long been at war. The conflict had begun centuries earlier over disputes in the waters between the two nations. Negotiations had once ended smoothly, but the Bansa Empress, who returned home with a diplomatic mission, suddenly died of a mysterious illness. Yufei denied any involvement, while Bansa insisted it had been assassination and retaliated by murdering a member of Yufei's royal family. From that moment on, the two nations fell into a cycle of revenge that eventually escalated into full-scale war. After centuries of conflict, the hatred between the two countries had sunk deep into their bones. Against that backdrop, the current Emperor, Turum, proposed an alliance to end the long history of enmity. He married Yufei's only princess as his empress. In other words, this was a political marriage for the sake of the alliance. It was a symbol of peace between the two nations. The lavish wedding and the luxurious garments seemed to proclaim Bansa's welcome of Yufei's princess. But in reality, the two countries could never be equals. Nazina was no different from a hostage, meant to prevent Yufei from betraying the treaty. There was no other meaning to it. Nazina faced the unfamiliar imperial palace all alone. The king's own younger sibling had entered a foreign land with no attendants from home by his side. Even noble princess could not choose her own destiny. Gao-chun silently watched while holding a wooden bucket. Just like me, I never imagined I would become a palace maid either. Ever since I was little, I loved sewing and weaving. Every day I would stitch or embroider something. Gao-chun focused on her embroidery. Done. I once dreamed of becoming a garment artisan, but in the end, it was only a dream. To support my family, who could no longer work because of the war, I had no choice but to take the stable job of palace maid. Palace maids do get sewing work too, but I could never do only that. Every day, the senior maids scolded me. They kept piling more work on me. I gave up my dream and entered the palace. Did I make the wrong choice? A light flickered in Gao-chun's eyes, and she straightened her back. No. Even in such difficult circumstances, Empress Nazina still carries out his duties with dignity. If I can rise in rank, maybe one day I'll be able to serve Empress Nazina directly. Holding the bucket, Gao-chun's eyes turned resolute. I'll do everything I can. Night fell over the palace. What? Gao-chun's eyes went wide. You said there might be a needle stuck in Empress Nazina's dress? Mu-yi hurriedly covered Gao-chun's mouth. Sure. You're too loud. Gao-chun lowered her voice. Sorry, Mu-yi. But is it true? Muy lukit, deeply terublet. I hope it's just a mistake, but no matter how many times I count, one needle is missing. I searched the whole room and couldn't find it. I'm sure of it. When I was mending the dress, I must have left a needle in it. Mu recalled herself holding the dress. If Empress Nazina gets pricked, I could be thrown out of the palace. In the worst case, I might even be sentenced to 100 lashes. Covidink had face. Muy tiremblet. What am I going to do? Gao Chun turned her face slightly, a glint at the corner of her eye. Don't worry. Muy. Gao Chun smiled. Mu looked at her in confusion. What are you going to do? Gao Chun turned toward Mu, her gaze hardening with resolve. I'll find a way. At dusk, the Lotus Palace, residence of the Emperor and Empress. Inside the dressing room of the Lotus Palace, Gao Chun slipped in on tiptoe. All right, I made it in. If the accident hasn't happened yet, I can still stop it. I just need to remove the needle before the Empress puts on the dress. A magnificent gown hung from a rack. That must be the one I mended. If I really left the needle in it, it should be around here somewhere. Gao Chun's fingers brushed over the fabric. There it is, a sewing needle caught between the layers. Gao Chun glanced around. Sure enough, Empress Nazina was still bathing. Gao Chun pressed herself against the door. I don't want my friend to be driven out over a single needle. And I don't want the beautiful Empress Nazina to get hurt either. Her eyes suddenly trembled. Just now, Nazina had been standing bare-chested in the steam-filled bath. I think I saw something strange. Gao Chun whipped around, her face instantly burning red. A scream caught in her throat. Her body froze. Her heart pounded wildly. She couldn't tear her eyes away. Her gaze dropped lower, and she saw something she absolutely should not have seen. Why would Empress Nazina have that? Huh, where am I? Gao Chun's eyes flew open. A moment ago, Gao Chun was sitting in a lavish room. She looked down at her wrists. What? Why are my wrists and ankles chained up? A voice rang out. Hey! Gao Chun looked up. Nazina stood there with his arms folded, staring at her coldly. Gao Chun suddenly came back to herself, cheeks flushed. Right? I remember now. I saw that thing on Nazina, and then I passed out. Gao Chun's eyes locked tightly onto Nazina's waist. Nazina's gaze turned icy. Where exactly were you looking just now? Gao Chun immediately lowered her head. Terribly sorry. Nazina pressed, don't hide anything. Gao Chun clasped her hands in front of her and stammered out an explanation. A maid I know left a needle inside the clothing while mending it. I just wanted to remove it before Lady Nazina. Put on. Nazina crossed his arms. If that were true, you could have simply sent someone with a message. I didn't expect the maids from the sewing bureau to be so rude. Jo-kun bowed deeply. I'm truly very sorry. Nazina gave a cold snort. Do you think an apology solves everything? Lift your head. Gao Chun shuddered and slowly looked up. Igriegajis. Yes. Gao Chun's green eyes widened in terror. Her gaze swept over Nazina. As I thought, this build is nothing like a woman's. You saw my body, didn't you? Jo-kun blushed scarlet. Well, Nazina ordered, if you have something to say, say it. Summoning all her courage, Gao Chun spoke. Lord Nazina, are you a man? Nazina let out a sigh. Damn it, this idiot. Gao Chun's pupils shook. That's right. Nazina looked straight at her. I am a man. Gao Chun's whole worldview shattered. Lord Nazina is a man? Her mind went blank. Her soul seemed to leave her body. A man? Gao Chun's jaw nearly dropped. What? Just as she was about to scream, Nazina reacted with lightning speed and clapped a hand over her mouth. Hey, keep it down. Lowering his voice, Nazina hissed, if anyone hears, we're both dead. Gao Chun's gaze dropped to his loosened collar. That chest. Her eyes stayed fixed on Nazina's chest. It was muscular, an undeniable fact. Gao Chun's face instantly turned bright red, and she shut her eyes, not daring to look any longer. Gao Chun struggled to stand up, but lost her balance and pitched forward. Her hand was still bound, and she toppled backward. Oh no! Nazina tried to catch her. Watch your head, idiot. The two of them tumbled out of the room together and rolled down the stairs. They rolled all the way down the high palace steps. Turum entered the room. Nazina? I heard a loud crash. What happened? Nazina landed on top of Gao Chun. Gao Chun lay on the floor, the two in an awkwardly intimate position. Nazina spoke first. Sorry, Turum, this maid found out. Looking at the scene before him, Turum asked, what exactly is going on here? Gao Chun sat on the floor on her knees, her wrists and ankles still chained. Nazina rose to his feet. Turum asked, is she the only one? Nazina answered, That man is Emperor Turum of the Bansa Empire, Gao-chun thought. So that means the emperor already knew Lord Nizina was a man. Turum sat down and examined Gao-chun. Then what should we do with this girl? A dagger was raised to Gao-chun's nose. The cold edge made her whole body tremble. Nizina gripped the knife hilt. If we want her to keep quiet, we'll have to kill her. Turum folded his hands. There is no other choice. Gao-chun's pupils shrank. This is insane. Just because I found out the truth, you're going to kill me? I'm just a lowly maid, but that doesn't mean you can do this. Gao-chun trembled all over. This is so unfair. She stared straight at Nizina and Turum. You're the ones hiding your identities, and now, just because I learned the truth, you want to kill me. I still have family to support. I can't die like this. I can't leave them behind. Gao-chun clenched both fists. It shouldn't be like this. I refuse to die over something like this. Turum rested his chin in thought. Most people would already be crying and begging for mercy, but she's angry instead. She's even talking back. This girl is interesting. Gao-chun did not back down. If I offended you, then I apologize, but every word I said is true. The corner of Turum's mouth lifted. There's more than one way to make someone keep quiet. We don't necessarily have to kill her. Hope flared in Gao-chun's eyes. Your Majesty. Nizina looked at Turum. Turum. A gentle smile appeared on Turum's face. First, let's move somewhere more comfortable. At the Empress's residence, Turum sat in the seat of honor. Gao-chun stared at Nizina. Even knowing he was a man, he was still unbelievably beautiful. His every gesture was graceful. Gao-chun immediately lowered her head. Don't look. Nizina shot her a warning glance. Try anything, and I'll drown you in the bathtub. So the Empress can be this sharp-tongued, Gao-chun thought to herself. Turum spoke. So your name is Gao-chun, correct? You must have a lot of questions. I only have one, and I'll ask it directly. Gao-chun looked up. Why is a man pretending to be a woman and marrying the emperor? Gao-chun turned to Turum. Your Majesty, did you agree to this marriage knowing Lord Nizina's secret? Turum answered yes. His eyes were deep and calm. Because from the very beginning, this marriage was a lie. A fake wedding the two of us planned together. Turum explained that it was merely political theater meant to uphold the alliance treaty between the Empire and the Yufei Kingdom. But Yufei's real princess refused the marriage no matter what. Against the backdrop of a battlefield at sunset, Turum continued. If the wedding were called off, the treaty would become void. Peace would break and war would erupt again. To prevent that, we absolutely had to go through with the wedding. Nizina picked up the explanation. So I stepped forward and married Turum as the princess's substitute. Turum added, we've known each other a long time, which made carrying out the secret operation easier. Gao-chun could hardly believe it. The wedding of the century was all a lie. Turum looked at her. Satisfied with that answer? Gao-chun lowered her eyes. Yes, I understand now. But still, Nizina looked at her. You still have questions? Yes, she stood before the emperor and empress without fear. That courage might be useful. Why not make her work for us? Nizina asked Turum. What do you think? Turum looked at Gao-chun. We will spare your life, but you must become the empress's personal maid. If I refuse, they'll really kill me this time. If keeping the secret can stop a war, then maybe this is something I have to do. Gao-chun made up her mind. She placed a hand over her chest. I understand. Your Majesty, I accept. Fingers tapped lightly on the table, his gaze heavy and resolute. This is now our shared responsibility. Turum rose to his feet. Good, then let's get to work. Nizina looked down at Gao-chun. Hey, shorty. A smile tugged at his lips. Get moving. Work starts now. Gao-chun froze, cold sweat pouring down. Did I just make the worst decision of my life? And so, I became Empress Nizina's personal maid, serving at his side within the same palace. Nizina lounged on a couch, propping up his head with one hand while flipping through a book with the other. It's hot. I'm about to sweat. Gao-chun immediately turned around. I'll fan you at once. Nizina set down his book. I'm a little hungry. Gao-chun turned again. I'll go get some refreshments right away. She hurried back and forth around the room. In a lazy voice, Nizina added, I'm thirsty. Bring me tea. Gao-chun leaned toward the tea table. The tea is right beside you. Nizina urged her with a look. Hurry. He held out his hand. Gao-chun, clearly unwilling, handed him the teacup. Gao-chun presented the cup. Here you are. The tea trembled faintly in the cup as Nizina took it. Carrying the tea set, Gao-chun made a pained face. This is exhausting. He orders people around even more than I imagined. Holding the tea things, Gao-chun felt completely helpless. But he is the empress, after all. Nizina, dressed in red, reclined lazily while reading. Even if it's only me here, isn't this a little too casual? Gao Chun's gaze froze. But he still looks beautiful. Nazina glanced up at Gao Chun. Why are you just standing there? Gao Chun blinked. What? Celebration egg? Lying on his side, Nazina said, I'm talking to you. Pointing at her hair, he added, it suits you, doesn't it? Celebration egg? Gao Chun pointed at her own bun hairstyle. I'm the only one in the palace who wears her hair like this. My name is Gao Chun. Inwardly, she was breaking down. He called me Celebration Egg again. Nazina said, oh right, Celebration Egg. Gao Chun took a deep breath. Calm down. Empress Nazina is just in a bad mood because of yesterday. Gao Chun clenched her fists. Work is work. Just do it properly. A week later, the palace routine remained the same. After delivering new clothes and preparing meals, Gao Chun hurried down the corridor, carrying things in her arms. With a wooden basin in hand, Gao Chun let out a long, weary sigh. Honestly, seriously, after becoming Empress Nazina's personal maid, Gao Chun gradually came to understand something. In the Lotus Palace, there were maids who handled miscellaneous chores, craftsmen who maintained the building, and cooks who stayed there permanently. But none of them could come into direct contact with Nazina. It was because of a secret that could not be spoken aloud. To avoid exposing that he was male, Nazina stayed shut indoors all day and only communicated his needs through letters, never appearing in person. As a result, everyone was overjoyed by Gao Chun's arrival. More and more people came looking for her. One maid held her face in both hands and looked at Gao Chun with grateful eyes. It's such a relief that you're here. Empress Nazina hates us, so none of us dare go near. Gao Chun smiled with her eyes closed. He doesn't hate you. He's just hiding his identity. But that secret was hers alone to bear. She couldn't say it out loud, so Gao Chun could only endure it in silence. The result was that she ended up doing the work of 5 people by herself. All of this was to prevent war between the two nations. Turum said to Gao Chun, you're probably the only person he can talk to at ease. Turum gently patted Gao Chun on the head. Please take good care of Nazina. Gao Chun's eyes turned resolute. I have to do everything I can. I absolutely cannot let Nazina's secret be exposed. Carrying a tray of clothes, Gao Chun called out, Lord Nazina, I brought your new clothes. Gao Chun opened the box. This color should suit you too. Nazina looked. This one. Thank you for your hard work. Gao Chun's expression instantly froze. In an even tone, Nazina asked more importantly, did anything happen? Gao Chun looked confused. What do you mean, anything? Nazina explained. When you brought the clothes over, you must have run into other workers, right? Gao Chun replied, yes. That's right. Nazina said nothing. Gao Chun suddenly realized. Oh, smiling, she said, come to think of it, the maids are all worried. They think you hate them. If it's all right with you, maybe next time. Nazina cut her off. You didn't reveal the secret, did you? His face fell into shadow, his voice turning cold. I asked whether you told the workers about my identity. Gao Chun stared in alarm. What? Nazina's eyes sharpened. If you did, I'll kill you. Gao Chun quickly waved her hands. I would never do that. Turning away, Nazina said, who knows? I'm not as careless as Turum. Gao Chun went pale. What? What is this guy even talking about? A little angry now, Gao Chun thought, I'm the one dealing with everyone for you and hiding your identity. Calm down. Lord Nazina is just extremely cautious. Even so, he always suspects me of leaking the secret. Endure it. Gao Chun shut her eyes. The palace eaves glinted in the sunlight. Gao Chun came carrying a stack of books. I brought the books from the library. As Nazina flipped through them, he asked, you didn't say anything suspicious to the librarian, did you? If you did, I'll have you executed. Gao Chun held a bouquet. The gardener sent these. You didn't say anything unnecessary to the gardener, did you? If you did, that too is punishable by death. I have to endure this. Gao Chun tightly shut her eyes. Endure. With his back to her, Nazina asked, you didn't tell the cook, did you? The atmosphere around Gao Chun instantly froze. You did? Gao Chun slammed both hands onto the table. I've had enough. Eyes closed, she shouted, please trust me at least a little. Then she opened her eyes. My life is hanging by a thread. How could I possibly talk carelessly? You're not even the real empress. What gives you the right to act so high and mighty? And you keep calling me Celebration Egg. Tears filled Gao Chun's eyes. You're just some fraud of unknown origin. A fake empress. Nazina folded his arms, his expression stiffening. Bowing her head, Gao Chun pleaded, if you're going to live here, then you need my help, don't you? Her eyes shimmered with tears. At least please trust me a little. Otherwise I can't do my job properly. Nizina turned his face away, a bead of cold sweat sliding down his cheek. What? Suddenly Gao-chun turned and strode toward the door. Your fan is over there. Please use it yourself. I have a dinner appointment, so I'm going out. Nizina stared in shock. Wait. He grabbed Gao-chun by the arm. You're going to see someone outside? Tell me who you're meeting. Gao-chun shot him a sharp look. Tell you? Nizina's hand was shaken off. She turned and glared at him. Do I have to report to you who I eat with and what I eat? I'll be back tonight. Nizina's expression darkened, sweat trickling down. Ouch, you got dumped. Turum looked at Nizina with amusement. Nizina sat back at the table. Don't make fun of me. Narrowing his eyes, he muttered. Is that really something worth getting angry over? And besides, are they more important than I am? Who exactly is she going to see? Nizina's gaze grew dark. The streets bustled with noise. Gao-chun walked side by side with an unfamiliar man, smiling brightly. Nizina's eyes remained clouded. What's the matter with me? Am I really upset over something this small? And I'm not even the most important one? Who could possibly matter more than I do? Gao-chun walked beside a man, a happy smile on her face. Reflections shimmered in their cups. Laughter echoed in a tavern in the capital of the imperial city. The man looked at Gao-chun and laughed. Looks like there are picky bosses everywhere. Duoji, don't laugh like it's none of your business. Gao-chun looked at the man across from her. His name was Duoji, her childhood friend from the same hometown. He was now a stable hand. Resting his chin on one hand, Duoji smiled. Just because we grew up together doesn't mean you can treat me like an older brother. Duoji reached out and gently ruffled Gao-chun's hair. Saw thee. My bad. Gao-chun's face looked a little pale. Duoji drew his hand back. You don't look too well today. The new job must be rough. Faced with his concerned words, Gao-chun hesitated. She lowered her eyes. Should I tell him? An image of Nizina flashed through her mind, tangled with her own confusion. It probably wasn't wise to say too much. Gao-chun opened her eyes. The weight of pressure and loyalty rested on her shoulders. Actually, I became Her Majesty the Empress's maid. Duoji leaned forward, eyes widening. What? His hand clenched. You mean? Duoji sprang to his feet. The legendary beauty? That's incredible. Gao-chun explained. So the picky boss I was talking about before is Lord Nizina. Duoji recalled that breathtaking glimpse from the wedding. I've seen him once. He threw both hands into the air. His beauty was practically not of this world. Gao-chun sighed. If enduring a little humiliation is what it takes to serve him, I'd gladly accept it. Shaking her head with closed eyes, she added, It's not as simple as you think. Duoji sat back down again. Still, becoming the Empress's maid is an amazing promotion. No wonder you're working so hard. Gao-chun forced a smile. Duoji looked at her, then slapped both hands on the table. All right, since our Gao-chun got promoted, today's meal is on me. Gao-chun looked at him. Does this even count as a promotion? Duoji called loudly to the owner and ordered more dishes. Gao-chun watched him from the side, her expression complicated. Soon, the table was filled with food. The dishes looked rich and delicious. Gao-chun pressed her hands together with a bright smile. Oh, whatever. Then I won't hold back. Duoji laughed and urged her on. Go on, eat. Lanterns lit up under the tavern eaves. The night deepened, and the wind outside the tavern turned cool. It was so good. Duoji looked at Gao-chun. You can eat a little more, you know. Gao-chun spoke. I should go. Her expression turned helpless. There are probably a ton of things waiting for me when I get back. Duoji grabbed her by the shoulder. I'll help you however I can. Got it. Gao-chun's expression remained complicated. She wanted to say so much. She wanted to confide in him, but she couldn't. Beneath the star-speckled eaves, Gao-chun said softly, Then I'm off. Duoji let go and watched her leave. Yeah, be careful on the way back. Duoji stood there waving until Gao-chun disappeared from sight. Only then did he lower his hand. Duoji told me before that he had never imagined there would be people opposed to the marriage between the two countries. Security around the palace was so strict because they were guarding against extremists who opposed Yufei. At the wedding, Lord Nizina never faltered even once. More than anyone, he understood what it meant to enter enemy territory all alone. And to make it worse, Lord Nizina wasn't even the real princess. He was also hiding his gender, wagering his life to protect peace. He was playing a dangerous role, and yet I got angry at him over something so trivial. Gao Chun clenched her fists in regret. At the very moment he was most anxious, I even thought about quitting as his maid. Resting her hand on the railing, she thought, I'm pathetic. Gao Chun made up her mind, her eyes firm. I need to apologize to Lord Nizina. She hurried toward the palace. From now on, I will truly become his personal maid. I will become his support. A maid stopped her. Gao Chun. The maid grabbed her arm. Thank goodness. You're back. Gao Chun looked at the tense maids around her. Why is everyone so nervous? What happened? The maid's expression turned grave. The retired emperor and his consort, along with Prince Eluz, have suddenly arrived. They said they want to see Lord Turum and Lord Nizina. Gao Chun's eyes widened in alarm. What? Really? Such important figures arrived without any warning? Where are Lord Nizina and Lord Turum? The maid answered, Lord Turum is receiving them right now. But she hesitated awkwardly. Lord Nizina locked himself in his room. In an ornate room, 3 royals sat around a table, the atmosphere oppressive. Gondike spoke first. What is that Yufei palace bride doing? Are we really meant to wait around like this? Does he think he can simply disappear? The silver-haired man in dragon robes was the retired emperor, Gondike, and he looked displeased. We graciously accepted him as a member of the Bansa imperial family, not as a hostage. Beside him sat a woman holding a folding fan. Qian Daly said, as expected, people from Yufei know nothing of courtesy. How arrogant. The woman with the fan, Empress Dowager Qian Daly, wore a disdainful expression. Another younger man, Emperor Eluz, sat there silently. Turum entered the room and gave a slight bow. Thank you for your patience. I sincerely apologize. Turum calmly explained. Because this visit was so sudden, preparations have taken longer than expected. He continued, this is proof of Nizina's deep respect. He wishes to receive your majesties properly, so I ask for your generous understanding. Gondike let out a cold snort through his nose. Respect? Folding his hands, he looked at Turum with contempt. If he truly had respect, he would show himself immediately instead of dressing endlessly. The treaty with Yufei was a mistake from the start. We should have invaded and crushed them outright. Turum stopped him. Father, you're still saying things like that? My father was once a mighty emperor, but all he ever saw was the profit of war. Turum closed his eyes. I worked to forge this alliance because I was determined not to follow his path. Turum's hand tightened inside his sleeve. Yet even after abdicating, he still interferes at every turn. Your Majesty, this is an age of peace. We must live alongside other nations and seek lasting prosperity together. Gondike demanded, why should we lower ourselves to associate with such lesser states? All that will do is damage the prestige of the Bansa Empire. Turum answered calmly, there is no nobility or inferiority between nations. Gondike slammed the table. Absurd. Eluz flinched slightly. He lowered his eyes. Gondike glared at Turum. If I'd known it would come to this, I would never have passed the throne to you. Nizina, arms folded, looked around the disordered room. It seems there isn't anything left I can wear. Gao Chun looked troubled. What are we supposed to do? We can't exactly have you wear a maid's clothes. Besides, Lord Nizina is tall, so they wouldn't fit anyway. She suggested, maybe we should just explain the situation to the guests. They'll understand that it isn't your fault. We can greet them another day. Nizina turned to face her and rejected the idea decisively. No, we can't do that. Gao Chun blinked in confusion. Huh? Why? Nizina's eyes sharpened. This. With his arms still crossed, Nizina said, it's very likely this was arranged by the retired emperor. Gao Chun gasped and covered her mouth. How could that be? Why would he? Nizina analyzed the situation. On the very eve of the retired emperor's visit, my clothes just happened to be destroyed. The timing is too perfect. An ordinary person wouldn't know the royal household's routines that well. Gao Chun suddenly understood. That's right. Even the other maids were in a frenzy over this sudden visit. Nizina's gaze was steady. Therefore, it's highly likely the retired emperor ordered his people to act, creating the situation we're in now. Nizina went on. More than anyone else, the retired emperor fiercely opposes this alliance. For him to scheme like this in order to tarnish my reputation would not be strange at all. Gao Chun murmured. The retired emperor opposes the alliance. Duoji did mention that many people belong to the anti-Yufei faction. The impact of the last war still lingered deeply. The wounds had never really healed. Many had lost family members in the war, and even now, they still hated Yufei and protested this political marriage. Even the retired emperor himself was among the opposition. It was hard to believe. Nezina's eyes grew sharp. If the retired emperor is behind this, then refusing to meet them now would put us at a disadvantage. No matter how we explained it, he would twist the truth and place the blame on me. So even if I make them wait a little longer, I still have to appear. Gao-chun looked worried. But even so, you don't have anything to wear. Remembering what had happened earlier, Gao-chun looked apologetic. I'm so sorry. Nezina asked, why are you apologizing? Lowering her head, Gao-chun said, because this happened while I wasn't by your side. If I hadn't gone out, if I come back earlier. She bowed deeply. I truly am sorry. Nezina looked at her quietly and said firmly, no, this isn't your fault. Even if you'd been here, the culprit would have done the same thing. They would never have stopped. They might even have hurt you too. So in a way, it's fortunate you weren't here. Tears welled in Gao-chun's eyes. Lord Nezina. Nezina smiled gently. I expected something like this to happen sooner or later. Countries that were once enemies do not forgive each other easily. Picking up one of the ruined garments, he continued, so I don't care what happens to me, so long as it helps the two nations end their conflict and eventually walk forward together. Even if it only brings a sliver of hope. Even if the price is myself. As long as I can see that day. Nezina's eyes softened. Then I will be satisfied. Gao-chun felt shaken to the core. Just as I thought, Lord Nezina knew all about the hostility aimed at him. For the sake of peace between the two countries, he agreed to become the substitute in this political marriage, prepared to face any danger without fear. Gao-chun grabbed Nezina's wrist. I can't forgive whoever did this. How could they treat you this way? Lord Nezina. Nezina looked puzzled. Why are you the one getting angry? Gao-chun retorted passionately. Because it's true. They don't understand your resolve, Lord Nezina. All they do is resort to despicable methods. I absolutely cannot forgive them. Fire lit in Gao-chun's eyes. Since it's come to this, I'll find a way to get you something to wear, an outfit that will make your beauty shine even more, Lord Nezina. Nezina looked slightly surprised, warmth rising to his face. Thank you, Celebration Egg. In a gentler tone, he said, if it can't be done, then let it go. Don't push yourself too hard. In the worst case, I'll greet them from behind the door. Gao-chun immediately objected. How is that any different from not meeting them at all? I absolutely won't let Lord Nezina's reputation be damaged over something like this. She clutched the edge of his sleeve tightly. There has to be a way out of this. Gao-chun's gaze swept across the room and finally stopped in one place. Her eyes instantly lit up. I've got it. A confident smile spread across her face. She had thought of a brilliant idea. Pointing into the distance, Gao-chun said, Lord Nezina, I think we can use that. A gorgeous red curtain hung inside the room. That drape could make an amazing outfit. Nezina stared at it in astonishment. A curtain? Gao-chun reached out and grabbed the fabric. She gave a hard tug. The cloth was soft and fine to the touch. Turning back to Nezina, Gao-chun said, Lord Nezina, could you help me take that curtain down? Then she added, I think I can make some clothes out of it. Nezina turned slightly, worried. Isn't that too reckless? It's just one big piece of fabric. How could it possibly become clothing? Gao-chun smiled confidently. Don't worry. I'll make it look stunning. She turned as if to leave. I'll go gather the other things I need. Take care of that first. Nezina reached out to stop her. Wait. Gao-chun disappeared in an instant. Nezina remained standing there with his hand half outstretched. Gao-chun's voice came from the distance. Two maids clustered around Gao-chun, their faces full of worry. Gao-chun, are you all right? What happened? Someone broke into Lord Nezina's room and destroyed all his clothes and accessories. The other maid went pale. What? Gao-chun looked at them firmly. Calm down. There's a way. The maids looked at one another in panic. Oh no, that means he can't receive the guests. At this rate, we'll be punished too. Gao-chun smiled faintly. I'll make the clothes right now. The maids stared at her in disbelief. You're gonna make clothes? Starting now? Are you serious? Gao-chun's eyes were steady. Of course. With earnest determination, she said, since things have come to this, we can only try. If we all work together, we can help Lord Nezina. The two maids looked troubled. One as well, but one of them said, quietly, Lord Nezina doesn't like us. If we interfere, won't he just dislike us even more? Gao-chun's gaze swept over them. I understand. Then we need to clear up that misunderstanding first. The maids lowered their heads. Their expressions darkened. Gao-chun gave them a reassuring smile. But now isn't the time for that. In a gentle voice, Gao-chun said, Lord Nizina doesn't hate anyone. He's just not used to Bance's climate and feels a little nervous. One maid looked up. Really? I thought he acted that way because he disliked us. Gao-chun immediately shook her head. Not at all. Her expression softened. He doesn't hate us in the slightest. He keeps his distance on purpose, so he won't get us tangled up in plots or assassination attempts. He's carrying all of that alone. Closing her eyes, Gao-chun said, the truth is, he cares about us very much. Turning to face the maids, she pleaded, so please, help support Lord Nizina. The two maids exchanged glances. Their expressions wavered. Then they nodded. All right. Together, they looked back at Gao-chun. What should we do? A radiant smile spread across Gao-chun's face. Thank you. Looking at the maids, she said, then you too. As the sunset stretched across the magnificent palace, Nizina stood with his arms crossed. You've kept me waiting. Gao-chun came over with a smile, carrying a wooden box. She sat on the bed. I brought the curtain, just as you asked. Nizina looked at the red cloth spread across the bed. Making clothes from scratch seems a bit too ambitious. Gao-chun said, please drape it over yourself. Nizina looked puzzled. What? Gao-chun shook her head. I'm not planning to make a full outfit. I'm just turning it into a cloak. Doesn't Yufei have garments like that too? Nizina looked at her. It does, but to keep it from slipping, it has to be sewn in place. We may not have enough time for that now. Gao-chun smoothed a hand over the fabric. Don't worry. Her eyes shone with confidence. I may not look it, but I'm very confident in my sewing skills. Leave it to me. Nizina hesitated. He closed his eyes, as if making up his mind. All right, I trust you. Gao-chun stepped in close to Nizina. Then excuse me. She reached for the ties of his robe. Nizina jolted. His face was full of shock. What are you doing right now? Gao-chun answered calmly. If you're going to wear something new, of course you have to take off what you're wearing first. Nizina's cheeks flushed. Well, yes, but Gao-chun's hands kept undoing the ties. Nizina turned his eyes aside. Gao-chun's face was red too. At a time like this, and you're still getting shy? In a pleading tone, Nizina murmured, Please turn around. Gao-chun picked up the red cloth. I'll be quick. Nizina gave in. Hey, all right. I have to concentrate. Don't think about anything weird. Gao-chun draped the red fabric across Nizina's shoulders. Her fingers deftly arranged the collar. The fabric fell smoothly, wrapping itself close around Nizina's body. Nizina looked at himself in the mirror, astonished. It actually turned into a beautiful outfit. Gao-chun looked at her handiwork with satisfaction. Now it's time for makeup. Nizina bowed slightly in apology. I'm terribly sorry for making you wait. The doors were flung open. Dressed magnificently, Nizina slowly entered the hall. He seemed to glow with light. With a hand on his chest, he gave a slight bow. Nizina offers you his greetings. Everyone present stared in astonishment. The air froze at once. All eyes turned toward the doorway. Behind the door, Gao-chun wiped away sweat. We made it just in time. This outfit blended the styles of both nations. A Yufei-style garment adorned with traditional Bansa patterns. Nizina closed his eyes, composed and self-assured. The accessories had also been chosen in Bansa style. The two cultures merged perfectly upon him. The timeline returns slightly earlier. Nizina raised a hand to arrange his hair. Don't worry, I'll do the makeup myself. Gao-chun let out a breath of relief. Thank goodness. I think we'll make it. Now the only thing left. A knock sounded at the door. Gao-chun turned around. Gao-chun, the maids pushed the door open. We brought what you asked for. The maids opened a jewelry box. These are the accessories we managed to find. They're all in Bansa style. We don't know if they'll suit him. Gao-chun looked at the jewels in the box. Thank you. These are perfect. Gondai gave a cold snort. Stealing Bansa culture. How barbaric. Just like your origins. Gao-chun bit her lip. How awful. Even now he still wants to stir up conflict. Nizina spread his arms, perfectly calm. No, this is not theft. Extending a hand, he said, this is my proof. Everyone looked at one another. Proof of what? Nizina's voice echoed through the hall. When the cultures of Bansa and Yufei meet, something this beautiful can be created. Through this marriage, we can move forward together. Nizina's gaze was unwavering. Is not this attire itself proof of the best possible future for us? Gandai's face turned ashen. Turum wore a faint smile. Gondai glared furiously. Utter nonsense. Gao-chun peeked out from behind the door. Lord Nizina, you look amazing. Kian Daly moved to support Eluz. Eluz, you don't look well. Eluz covered his mouth with his hand. Kian Daly looked at him worriedly. We made this sickly child wait far too long. Eluz waved a hand. It's all right. We came without warning. Kian Daly said we should return. Eluz needs rest. Gondai gave a cold snort and turned away. We're leaving for now, but this isn't over. Nizina watched them go. Yes, until next time. In the end, everything still went smoothly. I never expected them to pull something like that. The three of them left the hall, their figures disappearing at the end of the corridor. Nizina and Turum remained side by side in the empty grand hall. Night fell. Beneath the starry sky, the palace rooftops loomed in silence. Nizina asked, "Was it the opposition?" Turum replied, "Most likely. I never thought they would break into your room. We were too careless." Turum added, "But thanks to the maids, we avoided the worst." Nizina smiled faintly. "Yes." Turning his face slightly, Nizina murmured, "It seems I have allies in this country, too." In the grand, empty palace corridor, Turum looked at Nizina. That child, Gao Chun, helped a great deal, too. Nizina fell into thought. Yes, they simply don't understand Lady Nizina's resolve. That's why they resorted to such despicable means. I will never forgive them. Gao Chun's eyes were firm. "Don't worry. I'll protect you." Nizina looked around. "Wait, I don't see Gao Chun. Where did she go?" Nizina frowned. "That little thing is gone. She was supposed to come back with us." A sharp look flashed in Nizina's eyes. Could it be the remnants of the opposition? Anxiously, he searched all around. "Gao Chun, where are you?" Nizina rushed into an empty room. "Gao Chun." Nizina knitted his brows. "She was just here. Did she run off because she hated working?" His eyes darkened. If only that were the case. But what if the opposition attacked her? Nizina spun around and shouted again, louder, "Gao Chun." Gao Chun was kneeling beside a wooden wash basin, nodding off. Her heavy eyelids drooped, and she had fallen asleep. Nizina found her there. A trace of helplessness appeared in his eyes. "Did you fall asleep while washing clothes? You're not a child anymore." His expression softened. "A lot happened today. You must be exhausted." Gao Chun's breathing was steady, her sleeping face peaceful. Nizina bent down and carefully lifted Gao Chun into his arms, his movements as gentle as the wind. Holding her quietly, he murmured, "You did well." Sunlight flooded the palace, golden and dazzling. Covered with a blanket, Gao Chun lay in bed. Her eyelids trembled, then slowly opened. She sat up and looked around. "I think I had a strange dream." Then suddenly, no, wait. Gao Chun's eyes widened. "I fell asleep in the changing room. Then where am I now?" Her gaze swept across the room. Nizina was asleep in a chair by the bed. Looking down at herself, Gao Chun realized she was lying in Nizina's bed. Her face turned pale. Why am I in Lady Nizina's bed?" She recalled a moment of being held in Nizina's arms. "Don't tell me that wasn't a dream." Then a soft whisper echoed in her ears. "You did well, Gao Chun." It was Nizina's voice. Nestled in Nizina's arms, Gao Chun felt such warmth. Her consciousness blurred, her body completely relaxing. She only wanted to sink into that sense of safety. Nizina gazed at Gao Chun in his arms, a small smile appearing on his face. "Sleep well." Gao Chun jolted awake. What did I do exactly?" Nizina rubbed his eyes and sat up. "Gao Chun, you're awake." Gao Chun immediately dropped to her knees. "Lady Nizina, I'm terribly sorry. Because of me, you had to sleep in a chair all night." Nizina leaned lazily against the backrest. "It's nothing. Don't make such a fuss." But Gao Chun kept her head bowed to the floor. Nizina's voice came again. "I said it's fine. Lift that steam bun-like head of yours. Sleeping in a chair for one night is no big deal." Gao Chun slowly raised her head. Nizina gently placed a hand on top of it, and her body stiffened. Nizina softly stroked her hair. "It was thanks to you yesterday that I was saved." His voice was gentle. "Thank you." Gao Chun's cheeks flushed as she looked up at him. She said, "No, I'm just happy I could be of help." Nizina sat on the bench while Gao Chun knelt before him. The two exchanged smiles. In the sunlit palace corridor, a figure hurried past. "Jeo-kun, could you deliver this to Lady Nizina?" Gao Chun took the wooden box. "And Gao Chun, please deliver this letter too." She took the bamboo slip as well. "I understand. The crisis had passed, but life remained busy." Nizina pressed a hand to his temple, looking tired. Gao Chun rushed in carrying a towering stack of gift boxes. Lady Nazina, I brought your new clothes and letters. Nazina looked at the mountain of items and sighed. Oh, all right. He waved a hand. Just put them over there. I'll read the letters. Then he pointed to the sweets on the table. You can have some of those. Gao Chun's eyes lit up. Ah, are you sure? Nazina smiled. I can't finish them all anyway. Then he added, but leave a little for me. Gao Chun answered cheerfully, of course. I'll only leave a tiny bit. Lady Nazina had opened his heart just a little. As his personal maid, I was beginning to feel that I had value. Gao Chun puffed her cheeks while eating a sweet. Delicious. All right, now that I've eaten, time to work hard on the next task. Picking up a tray, she said, I'm on it. The tableware's cleaned up, and the old clothes can't be worn anymore. I was just wondering what to do about that. This is the perfect chance to make better-fitting clothes. Gao Chun's heart filled with anticipation. Since he entrusted me with making several outfits for him, I have to do my very best. An official with graying hair approached from the opposite direction. The two collided in the corridor. The official barked, hey, watch it. Gao Chun hurriedly apologized. I am sorry. The official clicked his tongue disdainfully. TCH. Being a maid to the favorite must be nice, so leisurely and carefree. Gao Chun clenched her fists. Maids are actually very busy. The official strode away, and something red slipped from his sleeve. Gao Chun crouched down. Sir, you dropped something. She picked up the red cloth bundle and examined it carefully. This fabric feels familiar, and there's a lingering scent of a special spice on it. Gao Chun placed the cloth on the table. Do you think the chief of construction is the culprit? Turum looked at her. Do you have evidence? Gao Chun set the red cloth piece on the table. Yes, this is it. Nazina looked puzzled. What? You're saying this scrap of cloth is your evidence? Gao Chun explained. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary piece of fabric, but if you examine it carefully, you can learn a lot. Turum's brow twitched. From such a tiny piece of cloth, first of all, this is silk from the city of beads and magic, a luxury favored by nobles. Commoners usually wear rough cloth or ordinary fabrics. So finding such expensive material on a palace Maid is highly suspicious. And if you look at the color and pattern, it clearly came from the outfit Lady Nazina wore last week. Resting his chin on one hand, Nazina said, Now that you mention it, this must have been torn off when the clothes were ripped. Gao Chun nodded. Very likely. Turum's eyes sharpened. Then it's worth investigating. We'll act immediately. Gao Chun clasped her hands tightly, her eyes shining. Thank you so much. According to Lord Turum's investigation, the culprit really was the chief of construction. Their crime had been committed to harass Lady Nazina from the kingdom of Yufei. With the criminal arrested, the case seemed to be solved. Everything appeared settled on the surface, but unseen currents still stirred beneath. I see. So that's how it was. Still, catching the criminal was already impressive. Gao Chun nodded. Yes. Duoji looked at Gao Chun. What's wrong? Didn't you do a great job? Jeo-kun lowered her head. It's just that the criminal we caught was punished by His Majesty before Lord Turum could take action. His Majesty only fined him a small amount. After that, the man was hired by a noble close to the emperor. So basically, he was let go. Gao Chun bit her lip. We worked so hard to catch him. It's so frustrating. Duoji looked at Gao Chun thoughtfully. Then he suddenly said, Oh, right. Do you know about this? He slid a sheet of paper across the table. Gao Chun looked at it. A bullfighting event. Duoji explained. There'll be a bullfighting tournament in Pingjiao soon. The whole place will be decorated, and there'll be street vendors too. It'll be a good chance to lift your spirits. Duoji's cheeks reddened. So, his eyes were full of hope. If you'd like, would you want to go with me? Folding his arms on the table, he waited nervously for her answer. Duoji spread his hands. I mean, everyone goes to see things together, right? It's much more interesting than going alone. His cheeks were faintly flushed, his gaze gentle. Whether it's with a friend or a lover. Gao Chun listened quietly to the end. Duoji smiled and continued. It'll definitely be more fun watching it together, right? Then Gao Chun said, Okay, I've decided. I'm going to suggest it to Lady Nazina. Duoji froze. Gao Chun smiled brightly. After what happened, he must be feeling down. It's not good for him to stay shut up in his room all the time. If he goes to watch with Lord Turum, I'm sure he'll be happy. Duoji's expression stiffened. Right. Scratching his cheek awkwardly, he looked aside. Gao Chun clasped her hands together. Next time, we'll definitely go together. Resting his chin on one hand, Duoji let out a sigh, his cheeks tinged red. He closed his eyes and gave a faint sigh. All right, Gao-chun ran happily across the courtyard, petals dancing around her. Thanks for the great idea. Duoji, supporting his cheek with one hand, Duoji waved goodbye. Seeing Gao-chun smile makes it worth it. Night fell. The palace lanterns were lit. Bullfighting. Nazina's eyes shone. The Bansa Empire has bullfighting too? Gao-chun entered carrying a tea tray. Turum was reviewing documents. Nazina asked excitedly, "Can we go see it?" Turum looked at him. "Yes, it does seem like a good idea. Gao-chun mentioned that you've been staying in your room constantly, which isn't good for your health, so I was considering making it part of an official outing." Nazina's blue eyes widened. He suddenly rushed toward Gao-chun. Gao-chun, grasping both of Gao-chun's hands, Nazina said, "Thank you. You're the best." A little flustered, Gao-chun replied, "I didn't expect you'd be this happy." Nazina said excitedly, "Bullfighting is popular in Yufei too. I used to go often, and I really love bulls." Looking at Nazina's back, Turum said, "Politically speaking, it's a problem that you haven't made a public appearance since the marriage. So attending this officially will be perfect." Turum praised the suggestion. Gao-chun's cheeks turned pink, her eyes smiling. On the day of the bullfighting tournament, the arena was packed with people, all eager to witness the spectacle. Nazina looked around. "There are more people than I expected. We'll be all right." Gao-chun remained calm. "The guards have already been deployed. It should be fine." Nazina picked up a hairpin from the jewelry box. "Then I'm relieved." Gao-chun placed the final ornament in Nazina's hair. "All done." Nazina admired himself. "Beautiful. You work hard." Gao-chun smiled. "Yes, Lady Nazina is as beautiful as ever today." Nazina shook his head. "No, I mean the dress you made." Gao-chun widened her eyes. "Ah," Nazina continued. "All the clothes you make are wonderful. When did you learn such skill?" Closing her eyes, Gao-chun gave a faint, bitter smile. "My family used to be very poor, so I did a lot of sewing and mending. I just learned naturally." Opening her eyes again, her gaze turned gentle but firm. "Even if it's only a small talent like this, I'm happy if it can help Lady Nazina." Nazina looked at her with soft concentration, as if trying to engrave her image deep in his heart. "You really are beautiful today." By the lakeside pavilion, the water lay still. Outside the arena, the streets were bustling as the people waited eagerly. Turum and Nazina stood beside the railing of the high platform, looking down at the crowd below. Nazina took in the excited masses. "I never imagined I'd receive this much attention." Turum smiled. "You should wave to the people of Bansa too." Nazina looked at him. "All right." He and Turum waved together, their motions a little stiff. The crowd burst into cheers. "Lady Nazina, Your Majesty the Empress, congratulations on your marriage." "Your Majesty, Lady Nazina." Nazina stood alone at the railing, his back bathed in sunlight and the roar of the crowd. He gazed at the cheering masses. "So many people welcome me." Turum stood at his side. "It was the same at the wedding." "Yes, but unfortunate things have happened recently." Turum replied calmly. "It's true there is an opposition faction, but most citizens wish for reconciliation with Yufei." The people's cheers rang to the heavens. "My ascension and the alliance with Yufei would not have been possible without the people's support." Nazina thought it over. "I understand." Suddenly, an angry shout cut through the harmony. "I won't accept this. Go back to Yufei." In the restless crowd, a man waved his fist. "It's all right. There are guards protecting the viewing platform. The attacker can't get close." Turum and Nazina both looked grave. Then I'd better not leave here." People moved through the streets. Carriages rolled by slowly. Meat sizzled over charcoal, and meatballs bubbled in a pot. The aroma of food spread through the air, blending with the clamor of the crowd into the unique warmth of festival life. Carrying a food box, Gao-chun walked through the lively street. "I bought a little of everything. I wonder if Lady Nazina will like it." Before leaving, Nazina had asked, "There are snack stalls at the arena, right? I want to try Bansa's street food." Gao-chun had raised her hand excitedly. "Of course. I'll buy some for you. What kind of food will there be? I'd love to try it someday." Gao-chun smiled as she carried the food box, when suddenly a voice called out, "Gao-chun." Her green eyes flew open wide. In the crowd, Duoji was waving at her. Gao-chun smiled back. "Duoji, but her smile froze when she saw a woman standing beside him. That woman. Gao-chun sucked in a cold breath. She recognized that face. Why? Why are they? Her pupils shrank. She didn't understand. Why was that woman looking at me with such a hostile gaze? Gao-chun glanced toward the unfamiliar woman beside Duoji and asked softly, "By the way, who is this with you?" Turning slightly, Duoji introduced her. "Oh, this is my junior. Her name is Ruma." He added, "We happened to run into each other just now, so we decided to walk around together." Ruma looked at Gao-chun with an unfriendly expression. "Hello, I'm Ruma." Gao-chun replied awkwardly, "Hello, I'm Gao-hun." Ruma said, "So you're Gao-chun. Duoji has mentioned you." She continued, "He said you're like real siblings." Gao-chun blushed faintly. "Igirigajis. We grew up together." "Wait, is this atmosphere love?" Gao-chun snapped back to herself. "All right, I've got to go." She waved goodbye. "I'm leaving first." Ruma's eyes were sharp, giving off a bad feeling. "Yes, I got a bad feeling too, especially after what happened a few days ago. Luckily, there are guards everywhere here, so it should be fine. Still, it's better to stay cautious." The roar of noise swept over them. Inside the bull ring, the crowd thundered. Two bulls and the bullfighters faced off. Carrying a box, Gao-chun returned. "Lady Nazina, I'm back." Turning around, Nazina said, "Sorry. Because of me, you missed the opening match." Gao-chun shook her head. "It's all right. There are still lots of matches to watch." Nazina pointed into the arena. "This match is good too. Gao-chun, come look." The stands erupted in cheers, the crowd in a frenzy. Gao-chun's lips trembled slightly, her heart tightening. Actually, Gao-chun's voice came out. "Earlier, I saw someone suspicious wandering around." Her expression turned serious. "Maybe I'm just overthinking it." But Turum interrupted. "No, if something feels wrong, it's better to be cautious." Turning around, he said, "I'll notify the guards to tighten security." Watching him leave, Gao-chun said to Nazina, "Sorry, I ruined your mood for watching the match." Nazina said nothing. A hand reached out and gently pinched Gao-chun's cheek. Without a word, Nazina just kept pinching her face. "Oh, Lady Nazina." Finally, he let go, and Gao-chun rubbed her cheek. Then Nazina lightly flicked her forehead. "We came here to relax, didn't we?" He pointed toward the arena. "So enjoy the bullfighting properly now." Gao-chun nodded. Yes, the final match of the bullfighting tournament. Two enormous bulls slammed into each other fiercely, sending up clouds of dust. Nazina watched, transfixed. Wow, heavyweight matches really are different. The tension is incredible, and they're evenly matched too. Then came a loud crash. Nazina turned alert. What was that sound? It came from beneath us. The balcony shook violently. Nazina lost his balance. The floor split apart. His eyes widened. "What?" Gao-chun fell to the ground. Nazina turned back and shouted, "Gao-chun!" Nazina threw himself toward the railing alone, crashing hard into it. Gao-chun rushed forward and caught the staggering Nazina. "Lady Nazina." Regaining his footing, Nazina said, "I'm fine. Look after yourself. Thank you for your concern. But I am Lady Nazina's maid." Gao-chun's eyes were resolute. The ground tilted violently again. The railing broke, and Gao-chun was thrown out. Her body fell out of control. In midair, Gao-chun reached out a hand, grasping helplessly at nothing. Nazina leaned out in terror. "Gao-chun," he screamed. Turum's face darkened. "This is bad. A girl has fallen." Gao-chun lay face down on the ground, motionless. The crowd cried out, "She's bleeding. Do something." Duoji stared at the scene in front of him. Gao-chun struggled to her knees, one hand pressed to her forehead. "It hurts. My whole body hurts. At least I'm still alive." A man was trying to calm a red bull. "Easy now." But the bull broke free, its eyes rolling white as it charged straight toward Gao-chun. Gao-chun looked up and could only watch as the red bull rushed toward her. "It's coming." Duoji and Turum cried out in alarm. "No!" A hand seized a piece of red cloth. Gripping it tightly, Nazina stretched out his palm. "Come here. Over here." Nazina pushed off the ground, swift as the wind. The red bull charged toward that flash of red. A middle-aged man shouted, "Now, catch it." Nazina slowly turned around. His eyes fell on Gao-chun. "Gao-chun, Lady Nazina, thank you." Gao-chun smiled. Then her eyes slowly closed. The smile froze at the corners of her mouth. Her body lost all support and fell backward limply. Duoji came running. He caught the unconscious Gao-chan. Gao-chan, wake up. Nazina looked at the panicked Duoji. Who is that person? The crowd burst into cheers. Lady Nazina, save that girl. So brave. Nazina is a hero of the nation. The cheers surged like waves, drowning out Nazina's thoughts. He could only stand there blankly. Long live Nazina. Long live the Empress. The people's cries rose one after another. Turum turned to Nazina. Nazina, what should we do? Gao-chun is badly hurt. Turum rushed forward and embraced Nazina tightly. Nazina, thank goodness you're safe. Nazina pushed at him. Hey, Turum said sorry. Don't be angry. Then a hand gently touched Nazina's cheek. Holding Nazina's face, Turum whispered, now is not the time. Calm down. Look at the audience. The people clasped their hands together. Lady Nazina, your majesties truly care for each other. They're the symbol of peace. Turum's eyes were cold. Our affectionate display is moving them. With warning force in his fingers, he turned Nazina's face toward the crowd. His voice was so low that only the two of them could hear. Tears of emotion shimmered in the people's eyes. They had completely misunderstood the scene before them. Countless hands joined in prayer, forming a sea of devotion. This is the perfect opportunity to prove to the world that this marriage is not merely political. I've already sent a doctor to Gao-chan. A physician was treating Gao-chun's wounds. So for the sake of the country, please endure it and cooperate for now. Nazina bit his lip. I want to run straight to Gao-chan. But Turum's voice held not a trace of emotion, as if he were discussing something entirely unrelated to himself. Every word was an invisible shackle. I cannot abandon my mission. Nazina clung tightly to Turum. If this can erase the hostility toward Yufei. Gao-chan was helped to her feet. Duoji watched the scene. Gao-chan is this badly hurt, and they're still putting on a lovey-dovey show. Disgust showed in Duoji's eyes. What a terrible pair. The next day, the physician reported to Nazina and Turum. Her left arm is fractured, and her whole body is bruised. She cannot continue serving as a maid for the time being. The physician bowed and withdrew. Nazina looked at Gao-chun lying in bed. The fact that you survived is already a miracle. Don't worry about work. Get some proper rest. Gao-chun sat with a bandage wrapped around her forehead, saying nothing. Her lips trembled, and tears slid down her face. Nazina called softly, Gao-chun, I'm sorry. The physician said my face may scar. For saving Lady Nazina, I have no regrets, but to bear a scar for the rest of my life, honestly, I can't take it. Gao-chun wiped away her tears with the back of her hand. Nazina apologized. This is all my fault. Your injuries are entirely my responsibility. Lowering his eyes, he said, I'm truly sorry. Gao-chun, you saved me. If I had been the one injured, the physician would have discovered that I'm a man. In that sense, you saved me too. I want to repay your devotion. Taking Gao-chun's hand, Nazina said, so tell me, what do you want? Anything, whatever it is. A glimmer flashed in Gao-chun's eyes, like a drowning person seizing the only piece of driftwood. A faint hope rekindled in her dim gaze. There isn't anything I particularly want, but if I have to choose one thing. Gao-chun's gaze sharpened. Please tell me about yourself, Lady Nazina. I want to know more about you. The kind Nazina who cries for me. Who are you really? What is your true identity? Gao-chun stared fixedly at Nazina. What is your true identity? Turum's expression changed. Wait, we can't tell her. Nazina raised a hand to stop him. It's all right, Turum. Turum was stunned. What are you saying? Do you know how dangerous it is? Nazina's eyes were resolute. Yes, I know, but Gao-chun once risked her life to save me. Memories flashed back. In the chaos, Gao-chun had reached out, panic written all over her face. Looking at Gao-chun, Nazina said, she is someone I can trust. I don't want to hide it any longer. I want to tell her the truth. Turum turned aside in silence. In the end, he relented. If that is your will, then do as you wish. Nazina looked straight at Gao-chun. I'm only telling you this because I trust you. Leaning against the door with his arms crossed, Turum said, you must swear you won't tell anyone. Gao-chun's expression turned solemn. Yes, I swear. Nazina let out a breath and solemnly declared, my name is Origa. I am the younger brother of the king of Yufei and Princess Nazina, a prince of the kingdom of Yufei. Gao-chun's thoughts churned. A prince of the kingdom of Yufei. But Lady Nazina, Gao-chun recalled the first time she saw Origa, his confidence and elegance, that calm bearing. It was an innate grace, something no ordinary person could imitate. Gao-chun looked at Orga. "No, Lord Orga, since you are of the royal family, why did you take someone else's place in a political marriage?" Lowering his eyes, Orga replied, "Nizina and I are twins. We look so alike that even my royal brother sometimes mistakes us." The memory turned blood red. Nizina refused the marriage alliance with the Inxiang Bureau, so I had no choice but to take his place in order to maintain relations between our two countries. Gao-chun turned toward Turum at the door. "Lord Turum, you knew from the beginning? You didn't oppose Lord Orga becoming the substitute?" "It is absurd, yes." Turum's gaze drifted into the distance. "The first time I met Orga was 10 years ago during the Armistice Agreement. 10 years earlier, at the negotiating table, three powers had faced each other in an atmosphere tense as drawn blades. Turum's gaze had gone past the arguing elders and fallen on the silent boy. We found that we were kindred spirits, and we secretly became close friends. We made a vow. The adults arguing gradually faded away, and all that remained in my sight was that quiet profile, lonely, just like me, out of place among everyone around us. One meeting of the eyes required no further words. A promise no one else knew was made that day. Someday, when we rule our respective countries, we will improve the relations between them and stand side by side." Turum stood in the doorway. "How are your injuries?" Though his tone was stiff, he added, "Don't pretend you're fine. They said the sand scraped your skin, and it made us scolor a little. But when I think of it as an honorary scar earned for saving the prince of a neighboring kingdom, it feels worth it." Orga stepped closer. "If your face is scarred, that is entirely my fault." So, suddenly Orga bent down and gently leaned close to Gao-chun's face. The distance between them vanished in an instant. Gao-chun's cheeks flushed red and her pupils shrank. What are you doing?" Gao-chun shoved Orga away with a sudden palm strike, and he tumbled backward. Panicking, Gao-chun cried, "Oh no, what have I done to a member of the royal family?" Her whole body trembled and went numb. Sitting on the floor, Orga said, "Gao-chun, what was that for?" Gao-chun shot back emotionally. "That's my line. You suddenly leaned in to kiss me. Have you lost your mind? Whether you're royalty or nobility, something improper is still improper." Kneeling on the bed, Orga said, "What do you mean by that?" Then he explained, "In the kingdom of Yufei, kissing a wound left while saving someone is a custom used to express gratitude. Isn't it the same in the Bansa Empire?" With a serious face, Gao-chun said, "There is no such custom in Bansa. Kissing is something lovers or married couples do to express affection. I also heard that at the bullfighting tournament, you kissed His Majesty the Emperor." Orga's face flushed. That was only symbolic, and Turum was forced into it. Gao-chun looked away. Orga rose to his feet. "In any case, I apologize for my rudeness. I only wanted to sincerely express my thanks." Lowering his eyes, he looked dejected. Gao-chun's cheeks reddened faintly. "I understand your feelings now, Your Highness. It's all right. I should be the one apologizing. I shouldn't have pushed you away so suddenly." Orga looked at Gao-chun. "No, it's fine. You had your reasons. And that shove was quite impressive." Gao-chun laughed despite herself. "Really, Your Highness? That's too much." Orga asked, "Gao-chun, may I kiss the back of your hand as a sign of thanks?" Gao-chun's eyes widened, and her cheeks instantly turned scarlet. "If it's just my hand." Her heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and her fingertips trembled slightly. Carefully, she held out her hand. Orga said softly, "Thank you." Orga knelt on one knee, reverently lifting Gao-chun's hand, and pressed a kiss to the back of it. Gao-chun's heart pounded. What is this feeling? Why do I feel this way? Even though I know it's only a gesture of gratitude, I'm flustered beyond reason. Gao-chun said, "Your Highness, may I ask to recuperate outside the palace? If I stay here, I'll only worry about work." Orga asked, "I don't mind, but do you have somewhere to stay outside?" Gao-chun replied, "I plan to stay at a friend's house from my childhood." Orga relaxed. "If it's an old friend, then I'm relieved." Then he asked, "Is it close?" "Yes. He works in Pingjiao as a coachman." Orga paused. A coachman? In his mind, Orga pictured a strong woman driving horses, her muscles rippling. Gao-chun explained, "He's broad-minded and would be happy to take me in. He's always been like an older brother to me. We're very close, so I'll be able to rest easy." Orga's expression froze. "Wait, your childhood friend is a man?" Not understanding his reaction, Gao-chun said, "Ah, yes. Sometimes he even treats me to meals. His name is Duoji." A picture flashed through Orga's mind. A brown-haired man gently holding Gao-chun. Orga's eyes sharpened. So it's that guy. Resting his chin on his hand, he tapped his lips with a fingertip, his gaze deepening. Gao-chun blushed. "Starting today, I'll be staying at Duoji's home. Without Lady Nazina here, it's so quiet." Duoji approached carrying a tray. "Please eat. Have plenty." The table was covered with rich dishes. Looking at the spread, Gao-chun asked, "Is this really all right?" Duoji picked up a piece of food. "I brought a lot of things you like." Gao-chun looked surprised. "Really? Thank you." Looking over the table, she realized, "Now that I think about it, it really is all food I like." She looked around. The atmosphere, the room was elegantly furnished, glowing with warm light. Taking some soup, Gao-chun thought, "It feels like home." Tasting it seriously, she said, "It's delicious." Duoji spread out bedding. Watching his back, Gao-chun thought, "I feel bad just sitting here doing nothing." Washing dishes and preparing bathwater. Duoji is doing everything. Turning around, Duoji said, "Don't worry. I'm happy to do these things for you." Gao-chun felt a little guilty. It feels like I'm troubling him too much. Duoji looked at her. His lips moved slightly. "The bedding is ready. You sleep on the bed." He pointed to the other side of the room. "I'll sleep over there." Gao-chun sat down. "Okay, thank you." A sudden scream split the quiet. Gao-chun crashed right into Duoji's arms, her cheek pressed to his solid chest. Duoji looked down at her. "You really don't let anyone stop worrying about you." Gao-chun's cheeks burned. "Salty, are Duoji's arms always this sturdy?" Supporting her, Duoji added, "And dressed like that, your body temperature will drop. This isn't the palace. It gets cold at night." He draped an outer garment over Gao-chun. "Wear this tonight." Looking down at the clothing on her shoulders, Gao-chun replied, "All right, I will." "What is this feeling?" "Duoji is always taking care of me, but somehow it feels a little different from before now." With his back to Gao-chun, his figure looked especially dependable in the lamplight. 1 month later, the palace basked in sunlight. Gao-chun stretched her body. "I feel much better." Sitting at the desk writing, Gao-chun thought, "My arm is healed. It's time to return to work. First, I'll write to the Lotus Palace." Gao-chun's eyes were firm. "And then I'll write one to Duoji too." Looking at the bed, Duoji said, "Really? You're going back to the palace?" Gao-chun nodded. "Yes. Thank you for taking care of me all this time. Before I leave, I want to repay you." Duoji looked at her. "No need. I did all this willingly." But Gao-chun insisted, "The more close and familiar we are, the more important proper manners are. Please let me repay you properly." After a moment of silence, Duoji said, "Then can I ask for one thing?" The market was noisy and full of life, red parasols and lanterns weaving together overhead. Duoji and Gao-chun walked side by side. Honestly, with so many other things to do, you had to choose strolling through the market together? Gao-chun looked at his back. "Does anyone buy something?" Duoji pointed to a stall. "Look, Gao-chun, the food at that stall looks good." Gao-chun glanced over. "What? You think I like anything as long as it's edible?" Duoji countered, "So you won't eat it?" Gao-chun immediately changed her tune. "I'll eat it." Duoji smiled. "Then let's go buy some." Steam rose from the bamboo baskets, and plump white buns looked soft and adorable. Holding one, Duoji said, "This one looks good too. Want to try it?" Gao-chun took the bun. "I'll just have one bite." The stall owner, a middle-aged woman, smiled. "You're such a good big brother." Duoji immediately denied it. "I'm not." Gao-chun snickered from his side. Duoji repeated, "I'm not her brother." The stall owner looked surprised. "Really? You two look just like brother and sister." Gao-chun's smile froze. Walking behind Duoji, she said, "You didn't have to deny it so strongly. We really are like real siblings." Duoji stopped walking. "No, that's not true." He turned around, his face serious. "I'm not your brother." Gao-chun looked away. "You don't have to say it over and over." Then something caught her eye. "Ah, how pretty." On the stall lay an exquisite camellia hairpin. Following her gaze, Duoji said, "If you want it, I'll buy it for you." Gao-chun shook her head. "Thank you, but no. It doesn't suit me anyway." With a smile, Gao-chun pointed at her face. "Just look at my face." Duoji cut her off sharply. "Don't." Her fingers were just about to touch her cheek when Duoji suddenly caught her wrist, swift as lightning. Holding her wrist, he said, "You're beautiful. Beautiful enough that no scar can be seen." Gao-chun froze. Duoji held her shoulders. Next time, I'll buy you an ornament that truly suits you. So please, his voice softened. Don't say things like that anymore. Gao-chun answered softly. Okay. Night covered the rooftops, and the stars were sparse. Sitting by the bedside, Duoji looked at the sleeping Gao-chun. Her breathing was steady, her sleeping face serene. Duoji stared at her as memories surfaced. He had been holding the unconscious Gao-chun, yet could only watch Turum hold his beloved, paying no attention to Gao-chun at all. Duoji clenched his fists. Gao-chun. Morning sunlight filled the streets. A white bundle lay on the ground. Everything was ready. It's finally time to go back. Gao-chun bid Duoji farewell. Duoji, thank you for taking care of me all this time. Duoji placed his hand over Gao-chun's and tightened his grip. Gazing at her intently, he said, Gao-chun, don't go back to the palace. His eyes were earnest, his voice carrying a trace of pleading. Grasping her wrist, Duoji said seriously, don't go back. Gao-chun's eyes trembled slightly. Duoji, what are you saying? Looking straight at her, Duoji said, what happened that time at the watchtower? Your injury wasn't just an accident. The anti-Yufei faction was trying to assassinate the emperor and empress. His gaze grew urgent. Believe me, something will happen again. Next time, it may be more than just an injury. Duoji's grip tightened. I didn't say anything before because I wanted you to recover, but this dangerous work, you must resign from it. Looking at her pleadingly, he said, quit now. Why risk your life for people like that? All they care about is each other. They don't care whether you live or die. Gao-chun stiffened in shock. Duoji, that's too much. She shook off his hand. You don't know. What really happened? Her eyes turned cold. I appreciate your concern for me, but I won't let you slander their majesties. Duoji froze. Gao-chun, Gao-chun released his hand. I should return to the palace now. Thank you for letting me recover here. I will repay your kindness someday. Take care. Gao-chun turned and left. Her footsteps echoed through the empty room. Duoji stood there alone, watching the direction she had gone. Gao-chun. Carrying her bundle, Gao-chun stepped into the bustling street. The crowd flowed endlessly around her as she blended into it. I never wanted things with Duoji to end up like this. She stopped and looked back the way she had come. Duoji's lonely figure rose in her mind. Her eyes dimmed, but she kept walking. No, I can't go back like this. Gao-chun patted both cheeks. Pull yourself together, Gao-chun. Walking toward the palace gate, she said, Prince Auriga, I'm back. Gao-chun pushed open the door. The room was in total chaos. Clothes were strewn all over the floor. Books lay scattered, and a vase was shattered. Gao-chun's face turned pale, and her hands trembled slightly. What on earth happened here? This is a complete disaster. Raising her voice, Gao-chun shouted, Stop hiding and come out. Auriga and Turum. I can see you behind the pillar. Bristling, Gao-chun glared until they finally came out. Listen to my explanation, said Auriga. Turum pointed at him. Auriga made this mess. Prince Auriga, clean it up immediately. Turum crossed his arms. My hands are clean. Anger popped over Auriga's head. Gao-chun tried to smooth things over. All right. Your Highness Auriga, Your Majesty, you should help too. Turum lifted a hand and glanced at the time. It's getting late. My meeting is starting. Smiling, he waved. I'll leave the rest to you two. Get along while you clean. Then he turned and strode away. Gao-chun hurriedly reached out. And no, wait, Prince Auriga, don't think you can run either. Auriga sighed. I know, I'll clean up. Honestly, only Auriga and Gao-chun remained in the room. With his back to her, Auriga wiped off a decorative item. Holding a feather duster, Gao-chun brushed dust from higher places. She glanced sideways at Auriga's back. Auriga stopped what he was doing. I come back, and the first thing you do is order me around. Don't you think a maid acting like that is rather shameless? Gao-chun did not shrink back in the slightest. Auriga smiled. I'm just truly happy that you came back. Gao-chun's cheeks reddened a little, and she turned her face away. Auriga picked up a rag. Speaking of which, the person who took care of you while you were recovering, you said he was your childhood friend. Gao-chun froze. Yes, that's right. Auriga lightly patted Gao-chun. I'll wipe the high places. Auriga pressed on. Then, is he someone you love? Gao-chun's face instantly turned bright red. And no, absolutely not. He really is just my childhood friend. Please don't say that. Auriga raised a hand and took the feather duster. I understand. Just a childhood friend. Gao-chun picked up the conversation. Your Highness Auriga, what about you? Is there anyone special to you in the Yufei kingdom? If there were, I wouldn't have come here, and I spent most of my time alone. Gao-chun suddenly understood. So that's why you're so good at taking care of cows, Your Highness Orga. A faint smile curled at Orga's lips. It may not look like it, but I studied very seriously in order to become a zoologist. Gao-chun looked at Orga in confusion. But as a member of the royal family, there should have been plenty of people who wanted to get close to you. Orga turned his gaze toward the window. I loved animals since I was little. I spent almost all my time in the stables. Orga's eyes dimmed. The other children all avoided me. They complained that I smelled like animals. I had planned to give up my royal title when I came of age and devote myself to the study of animals. Orga stood alone on a crisp hill, a pack over his shoulder. However, in order to maintain the alliance between Bansa and the Yufei kingdom, I had no choice but to give up that dream. Gao-chun looked at Orga. Your Highness Orga, I believe you can still become a scholar even now. Orga's gaze fell on a bird painting hanging on the wall. Perhaps, if I get the chance, I would still like to return to academia. Gao-chun raised the feather duster high. I know you can do it. I'll cheer you on. Suddenly, Gao-chun cried out in pain and her body lurched. Orga hurried forward to steady her. Gao-chun, does your arm still hurt? Orga's expression turned serious. Stop cleaning immediately. Go to the imperial physicians on the first floor of the outer palace and have them look at it. Gao-chun held her arm. It's nothing. I can bear it. Orga's gaze allowed no argument. Go at once. This is an order from your empress. Gao-chun lowered her head. Yes. Gao-chun walked along the corridor on the first floor of the outer palace, feeling as though ages had passed. I wonder if Mu-yi is all right. As Gao-chun rounded a corner, she ran into several maids. A black-haired maid turned around. Well, look who this is. Isn't this Gao-chun, Her Majesty the Empress's personal maid? Gao-chun's heart tightened. Senorita. Rita folded her arms and, along with two other maids, surrounded Gao-chun. Rita tapped a finger against her chin. My, haven't you risen in the world? Our little Gao-chun became the Empress's personal maid. Gao-chun bowed. Try to slip past them. It's too troublesome dealing with them. I should just go. Rita suddenly straightened and barked. Hey, where do you think you're going? Rita blocked Gao-chun's way. Gao-chun whipped around and met three malicious pairs of eyes. What? Rita suddenly grabbed Gao-chun by the hair. Gao-chun screamed in pain. The scar on your forehead. Rita's face showed disgust. It's so ugly. I can barely stand to look at it. What an eyesore of a maid. The Empress won't want to keep someone like you by her side either. A hand shoved Gao-chun and sent her sprawling to the floor. Rita looked down at Gao-chun. Resign and get out of the palace immediately. I'll take your place. Gao-chun sat fallen on the ground as memories surged up. She had once helped Orga through a crisis. Orga had smiled. I'm just truly happy that you came back. Thinking of that, Gao-chun pressed her lips together tightly. She pushed herself up. Rita stood with her arms folded, looking at her arrogantly. Gao-chun spoke with resolve. No, I refuse. Rita said in shock. What? Gao-chun's eyes were steady. I will never give up this position. Rita glared at her. What did you say? Gao-chun ignored her, turned, and left. I am Buse. I won't keep you company. Rita was still glaring behind her as Gao-chun ran along the palace wall. She collided with someone. A white-haired man. Watch it, Gao-chun. Running in the palace is forbidden. Gao-chun steadied herself. Sorry. Gao-chun recognized the man. She had seen him at the bullfighting festival. There had been something strange about him. Gao-chun recalled the scene from the festival. He hadn't watched the match at all. He had only been lingering nearby. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but Gao-chun turned away. Sorry. I need to hurry and tell Lord Turum and His Highness Orga. Gao-chun turned and ran toward the palace. A long staircase stretched toward the sky. In a warmly lit room, several officials sat around a table. Turum sat with his hands clasped, his expression grave. Turum thought deeply. Although I often convene meetings to move away from the methods of the late emperor. Another official said, gathering local lords and hearing all sides, claiming it is for the people. An official challenged Turum. But do you really think that benefits the nation? Another official raised his voice anxiously. We must reconsider the alliance with the Yufei kingdom. Turum's face darkened. The noble officials backed by the former emperor are dissatisfied with my rule at every turn. They keep bringing up the alliance with the Yufei kingdom. First they demanded that I marry Nazina rather than accept a hostage. And now they want to reconsider the alliance. They're utterly inconsistent. Turum's pupils narrowed sharply. One official smiled faintly. Your Majesty, he asked tentatively, do you share Lady Nazina's bed every night? Another official immediately snapped. What is the meaning of this question? We are here to discuss state affairs. The official who had spoken first was unmoved. His Majesty has a duty to produce an heir as soon as possible. That is equally important to the nation and its policies. The officials began whispering among themselves. It has already been some time since the marriage. Yet there is still no news of a pregnancy. Why not take another principal wife from the Bansa kingdom and produce an heir of pure Bansa blood? One official clapped in approval. An excellent idea. Turum narrowed his eyes. Are you insulting my empress now? The official hurriedly waved his hands, sweat breaking out on his brow. Of course not, Your Majesty. Turum's tone was icy. No matter what anyone says, I have no intention of taking any wife other than Nazina. You all seem very concerned about my father's views. Rather than focus only on what is right in front of you, you should think more about the future. Turum's gaze swept toward Gondike. My son will one day ascend the throne, and I will become the retired emperor. Gondike's eyes turned sharp. Are you urging me to abdicate as soon as possible? Turum replied, that is not what I mean. Gondike accused him. You always ignore loyal advice. You have no intention of protecting the Bansa kingdom. Turum retorted, I'm only trying to find a path for the country's long-term future. Gondike scoffed. That is precisely your naivete. The Bansa kingdom must remain strong forever. The Yufei kingdom is not an ally. They are the Bansa kingdom's enemy. Turum lowered his eyes. Must we really go through this again? I do not wish to engage in pointless arguments. Gao Chun pushed open the door. I'm back. Forget what just happened. I need to tell them about that guard as soon as possible. Orga spoke first. Welcome back. How is your arm? Gao Chun's gaze wavered. Your Highness Orga, I have something I need to tell you. Orga looked at Gao Chun. Something felt off about her. He noticed her expression. What was with that look on your face? Orga saw tears gathering at the corners of Gao Chun's eyes. He reached out and wiped them away. Looking at her, his eyes were full of concern. What happened? Gao Chun fell silent. What should I do? What happened before keeps replaying in my mind. She lifted a hand to wipe away the traces of tears and forced a slight smile. And no, it's nothing. Orga's voice was firm. Don't lie to me. He reached out and tightly held Gao Chun's hand. Orga bent close to her. Tell me why you're crying. The two sat side by side in a quiet atmosphere. So, it was because of the palace maids? Gao Chun lowered her eyes. Because you were by my side. I am sorry. Orga covered part of his face with one hand. No, it's all right. I expected as much. Gao Chun clasped her hands tightly. It's nothing compared to everything your Highness Orga has done. Gao Chun gripped the hem of her skirt so hard her knuckles turned white. Orga lowered his hand. His expression was serious. That's not something that should be compared. Pain is pain. Orga looked earnestly at her. If there is anything you need me to do, tell me. Gao Chun smiled faintly. Thank you, but it's all right. Sunlight fell over the vase by the window, and everything seemed peaceful. Gao Chun closed her eyes, smiling brightly. I can overcome anything because your Highness Orga is by my side. The door was suddenly flung open. Turum stood there. My father really is stubborn. Gao Chun and Orga turned at the same time, startled. Turum rubbed the back of his neck with one hand. He looked slightly dazed. He narrowed his eyes, a trace of bloodshot red in them. Did I interrupt something? Gao Chun's cheeks flushed, and she hurriedly waved her hands. And no. Oh, right, there's something I need to tell you. A tea set sat untouched on the table. The white porcelain glowed softly. Turum spoke. So, the suspicious man we saw at the bullfighting arena, was he a palace guard? Most likely one of my father's men. If he was wearing a navy uniform, then he was certainly one of father's royal guards. Turum's expression grew complicated. How ironic. Father is now leading the anti-Yufei faction within the palace. It would hardly be surprising if the guard around him had ill intentions too. Turum lowered his hand. I'll keep a close eye on it as well. You two should be careful too. Nazina and Nazina stood side by side. Orga replied softly, yes. A few days later, the solitary pavilion glittered magnificently in the sunlight. A scroll was gently placed on the table with a crisp sound. Gao Chun presented the letter. This is a letter for the Empress. It was sent by the noble consort. Orga's brows drew together slightly. The noble consort? Orga unfurled the scroll. His eyes swept over the words. Gao Chun leaned in, concerned. What does it say? Orga read aloud. She wishes to invite you to dinner as an apology for the trouble caused by her sudden visit last time. Orga looked at Gao-chan, and she is not inviting the retired emperor or Turum. She wants only us ladies to talk in private. Gao-chan looked hesitant. Do you think she might have another motive? Orga said, it's possible, but if we refuse, we won't be able to avoid conflict with the retired emperor and the noble consort. An invisible net has already been cast, so we have no choice. We can only accept the invitation. On the day of the banquet, Gao-chan led the way. The noble consort's palace is this way. Rita stood not far away. Gao-chan and Origo walked toward her. Gao-chan spotted Rita at the corner, and her pupils contracted instantly. Rita glared at Gao-chan, carrying a tea tray. She looked at her provocatively. You were awfully bold last time. Orga stood behind Gao-chan without saying a word. Only then did Rita notice Orga was there too. She sucked in a sharp breath. Your Majesty the Empress. Orga's gaze turned cold. A palace maid who does not bow even when she sees the Empress? His eyes were full of scrutiny, as though trying to see through her disguise. Orga's gaze swept over Rita. What kind of training have you received? Rita's face flushed with humiliation. She bit her lip and lowered her head. I was wrong. The two of them passed by Rita. Orga said, my maid is very capable. Rita clenched her teeth, her nails digging deeply into her palms. She endured the humiliation in silence. Orga spoke. Gao-chan, let's go. I am sorry. I acted on my own just now. When I realized the person who had bullied you was her, I couldn't help myself. Gao-chan put her hands on her hips, looking much more relaxed. I was actually a little nervous before, but now I feel much better. A slight smile touched Orga's lips as he gently patted Gao-chan on the head. Orga drew Gao-chan into his arms, and the two embraced. The noble consort's palace was lavish and magnificent. Orga inclined his head slightly. Thank you for the invitation. The noble consort sat in the place of honor, smiling. I am very pleased that you accepted. Please, help yourself. The table was filled with a dazzling variety of dishes. The noble consort raised her cup. Seeing the food suit your taste puts my mind at ease. Orga looked somewhat surprised. I didn't expect you to prepare dishes from the Yufei kingdom as well. The noble consort let out a soft laugh. I simply wanted to make you happy. Orga and Gao-chan exchanged a glance. Gao-chan looked slightly surprised, her expression puzzled. She's unexpectedly kind. Unlike the retired emperor, the noble consort doesn't seem so overbearing. There probably won't be any trouble. Orga sat facing the noble consort. The noble consort's gaze swept over him, laden with meaning. In the study, Turum was writing with a brush. A maid approached with a tea tray, her steps light. She placed a teacup on Turum's desk. Turum set down his brush. Let's stop here for today. Turum lifted the teacup. The tea was clear. I wonder how Orga is doing. Then Turum suddenly sensed something was wrong. He covered his mouth and stared at the tea spilled over the scroll. What is this? A strange sensation came over him. His vision began to blur. Turum's whole body grew feverishly hot. He clutched at his clothes. My body suddenly feels so hot. Turum's eyes lost focus. Could it be? A woman's voice sounded beside his ear. There was a little mild medicine mixed into that tea. A woman's hand stroked Turum's cheek. Your Majesty, Turum. The maid pressed herself close and embraced him tightly. The maid held Turum close. He looked shocked. This maid is wrong. She isn't a maid. This woman had once been one of the candidates to become queen. Your Majesty, if I bear your child, we can drive that woman out of this country. You never wanted to marry that woman, did you? Turum turned his face away. That's not it. Fix your clothes and leave at once. Leave right now. The woman paid him no mind. Don't worry. That woman won't be back until very late. I've already dealt with everyone around her. So tonight, please stay with me. The woman leaned in again, her hand caressing Turum's jaw. Her warm fingertips brushed him as she breathed softly into his ear. Orga is surely with the noble consort right now. I see. So this entire thing was the noble consort's scheme. In the room, Orga sat opposite the noble consort. The fragrance of tea drifted through the air. A faint smile hung on the noble consort's lips. At this point, everything should be proceeding according to plan. Turum raised the princess of Yufei to the position of empress in the name of alliance and diplomacy, and declared that he would never take another wife in this lifetime. The noble consort lifted her teacup, but we cannot simply sit back and do nothing about such a thing. The noble bloodline of Bansa absolutely must not be tainted by Yufei blood. That is unthinkable. We cannot let him go down in history as a foolish ruler who polluted the imperial bloodline. But Turum is stubborn. Once he says something, he never takes it back. The former emperor and the ministers tried to persuade him many times, all to no avail. So I thought, if reason won't work, then I will create a situation he cannot refuse, force him to marry a woman of Bansa as his wife. I immediately summoned a noblewoman and plotted to drug Turum so they would share a bed. She pressed a small vial into the woman's hand, signaling for everything to proceed according to plan. Inviting that Yufei woman to the banquet was solely to keep her away from Turum. A cold smile appeared on the noble consort's face. That's right, Turum, everything I have done is for your sake, for you to be remembered in history as a wise ruler. As your mother, I will guide you properly. On the other side, the noblewoman pinned Turum beneath her. Damn it, Turum's body burned with fever, and his consciousness gradually blurred. Your Majesty, the noblewoman breathed against his ear. Origa and Gaochun are risking their lives to preserve the alliance. I cannot destroy everything at a time like this. No, if this continues. Turum shut his eyes tightly, sweat rolling down. Turum reached out his hand. The noblewoman thought the drug had taken full effect and that he was about to favor her. Blushing, she looked at the hand reaching toward her. Turum suddenly yanked out her hairpin, his eyes cold. If you don't want to see blood, then shut your eyes. The noblewoman was terrified. Your Majesty, what are you doing? Turum drove the hairpin into his own thigh. Blood soaked through his white clothing. A scream shattered the silence. Droplets of blood splattered as the hairpin rolled to the floor. I'm awake now. The noblewoman stared at Turum in horror. Turum's voice was icy. If you do not want your entire family executed, leave this place immediately. The noblewoman stumbled away in panic and went to report to the noble consort. The noble consort's eyes were calm. Is that so? It is time to bring this to a close. A sneer lifted her lips as she set down the wine cup in her hand. The noble consort rose to her feet. The banquet is over. Gaochun looked puzzled. It's over? Just like that? The noble consort's expression was blank. I need a rest. You may return as well. Origa and Gaochun looked at each other. Why did she suddenly become like this? The two left the room, their figures disappearing at the end of the corridor. Origa entered and saw Turum. Why are you just sitting there like that? In the middle of the vast hall, Turum sat motionless. Then he saw it. Turum had one hand over his face, and blood was seeping through his fingers, staining his thigh red. Origa cried out, Gaochun, your thigh is bleeding. Turum let out a bitter laugh. I barely managed to escape that trap. He folded his hands before him, looking utterly exhausted. So the banquet had been a complete and total scheme. Gaochun covered her mouth, horrified. They even used drugs. How awful. He's not livestock for breeding. How could she do something like that to her own son? Origa frowned deeply. Turum lowered his eyes. Even though she is my mother, I am truly disappointed. Turum lifted his head. Gaohun, I am sorry. May I sleep here tonight? I don't feel safe in my own room. Gaochun nodded slightly. I don't see why not. But first we need to treat your wound. We need to disinfect it and stop the bleeding. Gaochun crouched and reached out her hand. So let me see the injury. Turum's cheeks reddened. Wait. Gaochun, he instinctively recoiled. Origa grabbed Gaochun's hand and pulled her away. He took that kind of drug. Don't go near him. Turum looked at them. Do I look like some kind of monster? He waved a hand. I'll tend to the wound myself. You two should go rest. Gaochun hesitated, but Turum's voice hardened. I said it's fine. Go. The next morning, sunlight flooded the splendid pavilion. Turum spoke. You've worked hard. Go get some rest. Origa rubbed his eyes and yawned. We talked all night. Dragging his tired feet, Origa headed toward his room. I'm so sleepy. Gaochun came toward him. Good morning. Did you sleep well? Origa turned back, his eyes sharpening. Gaochun approached carrying a tray. I brought you breakfast. She set the tray on the table, the dishes giving a soft clink. She was all smiles. Gaochun stepped back. Please enjoy. Origa looked at the food in front of him. All right, thank you. He stared at the bowl of porridge. What kind of porridge is this? It smells strange. A dark purple porridge emitted an ominous black aura from the bowl. An unpleasant smell spread through the room. Gao-chun explained with narrowed eyes. This is the head chef's special medicinal porridge. It's just. Gao-chun clasped her hands together. Since His Majesty and Your Highness Orga spent the night in the same bed, they insisted that you drink it. Orga fell silent. Gao-chun lowered her head nervously. The two sat in silence. Orga's eyes widened. We did not share a bed. Gao-chun found her suspicions confirmed. Yes, they say it helps with fertility. Orga touched his lower lip with his fingertips. Wait, this porridge, could it be? Orga suddenly flung the spoon away. This stuff is useless to me. I absolutely won't eat it. Gao-chun caught the spoon at once. If you don't eat it, they'll get suspicious. Gao-chun lifted the spoon to Orga's mouth. Act like an empress and drink all of it. Orga was forced to open his mouth as the spoon was thrust in. The porridge was forced down. Orga squeezed his eyes shut, his face twisting in misery. He rushed to the window and flung it open. That's disgusting. Sunlight streamed through the carved curtains, motes of dust dancing. Orga lay on the bed. He was weak all over. Gao-chun stood by the bedside. Lord Orga, you've been lying there the whole time. Is your work all finished? Orga said, I feel weak all over. I don't even want to move a finger. I think there was something wrong with that porridge this morning. Gao-chun looked at Orga helplessly. Orga tugged at his clothes. Maybe pretending to be a woman is exhausting. My whole body aches. A woman's posture and clothing are far more uncomfortable than men's clothes. Gao-chun nodded in agreement. That's absolutely true. So just because you're lying down doesn't mean you're especially weak. Orga nodded. Yes, the mental strain is great. The fatigue keeps building. Gao-chun looked at Orga's tired profile. She truly wished she could do something for him. Gao-chun's eyes lit up. I've got it. Orga rested his head on one hand. Gao-chun came closer. Lord Orga, I'll help relieve your fatigue. Gao-chun smiled brightly. Come on, please take off your upper robe. Smiling, she placed her slender fingers on his collar and slowly undid the first button. Orga's eyes widened in shock. What? The room fell silent. Candlelight flickered. Gao-chun pressed both hands to Orga's back and started massaging him. You could have just said it was a massage from the start. I didn't expect you to react so strongly. Orga lay face down on the bed while Gao-chun knelt at his side, her movements practiced. Orga turned his face to the side. I didn't know that besides sewing, you could do this kind of thing too. He asked casually, could it be because of that childhood friend, Duoji, again? Gao-chun's hands never stopped. No, I did it for my family. Orga asked, speaking of which, what is your hometown like? My hometown is in a vast mountain region in the north of the Bansa Kingdom. Snowy mountains stretch on and on. Sunlight pierces the clouds and spills down in golden rays. It used to be an independent country, so it still preserves its unique culture to this day. Animal husbandry thrives there. Summers are cool, and winters are buried under heavy snow. Mir Village is where my home is. The snow there is especially heavy, enough to bury the roads completely. The village becomes cut off from the outside world, so before winter arrives, we are always busy stocking food and necessities. Orga said, that's amazing. I can't imagine it at all. It doesn't snow in the Yufei Kingdom. I really want to see it with my own eyes someday. Gao-chun's hands continue the massage. It does snow in Pinxiao, though not as heavily as in Mir Village. Orga asked, really? Gao-chun nodded firmly. Yes, everything turns white. The snowy view from Lotus Palace must be beautiful. There was a trace of drowsiness in Orga's voice. That sounds worth looking forward to. Gao-chun closed her eyes, a blush rising on her face. Gao-chun's hands left Orga's back. All right, the massage is over. She stood up. Does your body feel a little lighter now? Orga turned over and sat up. Yes, I feel much better now. Thank you. Bracing one hand on the bed, sunlight outlined the lines of his muscles. He gazed at Gao-chun. I only wanted to help relieve Lord Orga's fatigue just now. Did I do something too bold? Orga looked at Gao-chun. What's wrong? Your face is very red. Gao-chun abruptly turned her back to Orga. Don't look. It's because I'm sweating. Thinking quickly, she added, right? Let me give you a foot massage to finish. Gao-chun crouched down and grabbed Orga's foot. Wasn't it already over? Gao-chun pressed hard into the sole of his foot with both hands. Orga's face twisted. Ow, that hurts. Gao-chun looked flustered. Oh dear, Lord Orga, is your stomach unwell? It seems you really do have a lot weighing on your mind. Orga's face turned bright red. All right, I get it. Stop already. That's enough. Gao-chun finally let go. Origa was filled with relief. The room was left with only an easy, relaxed atmosphere. Eluz stood alone in a dark room, both hands braced on the table. This can't go on. Eluz murmured under his breath, "Brother." Eluz's eyes were resolute. I have to make up my mind soon. Sunlight filtered through the lattice windows and fell over Origa. He sat quietly at a table, gazing at the greenery in the courtyard. Gao-chun entered carrying tea and sweets. "Lord Origa, I brought some refreshments." Origa glanced aside and gestured. "Put them down and have some too. You said you liked these sweets." Gao-chun looked troubled. "Sorry, I still have something to do." Origa turned slightly. "What is it?" "You can do it after eating." Gao-chun's tone was firm. "No, it's something I have to do right now." Origa picked up his teacup. "Is it really that urgent?" Gao-chun turned to leave. "Sorry, but I really have to go." She practically ran out. Origa watched her retreating figure. "Gao-chun, what is she in such a hurry for?" Gao-chun's figure disappeared behind the door. Resting his cheek on one hand, Origa sank into thought. She actually refused her favorite sweets. That's so unlike Gao-chun. In that case, I'll just eat them myself. Origa's gaze fell on the brightly colored sweets on the table. Something fell off. The bamboo grove rustled. Gao-chun walked through it alone. Then her steps halted. She turned sharply. Eluz emerged from the bamboo grove. Gao-chun looked at him warily. Eluz stopped before her. "You're Empress Nazina's maid, aren't you?" Gao-chun looked alarmed. Eluz gave a slight bow. "There's something I want to ask you. I was a little worried, so I followed you." Origa raised a brow. "I knew she would take this path." Origa moved through the bamboo grove. He stopped, and through the gaps in the bamboo leaves, saw the scene in the courtyard ahead. There she is, Gao-chun. The two were talking in the gazebo. Origa called softly, "Gao-chun." Origa's blue eyes narrowed, flashing with sharpness. "Isn't that man Turum's younger brother, Eluz? Why would Gao-chun be with Eluz in a place like this?" Origa's expression grew grave. Could it be that Gao-chun is conspiring with Eluz? No, a diligent girl like Gao-chun would never do such a thing. And I deserve to be hated for a lifetime. But Gao-chun is also a person of the Bansa kingdom. Origa's eyes were conflicted. If Gao-chun truly betrayed me, then Origa's face twisted in pain. A muffled groan escaped him. Origa stood alone on the forest path. His solitary figure faced the distant golden palace, its roof shining beneath the sun. Gao-chun peered around a doorway. She looked around carefully. Inside, Gao-chun was arranging a basin. Leaves rustled. Origa suddenly appeared behind her. "Gao-chun," Origa demanded, "where did you go?" Gao-chun turned around, her smile a little stiff. "What do you mean by that?" Origa placed a hand on her shoulder. "I already said it just now. I was busy with work." Origa's tone turned cold. "Gao-chun, I saw everything." Gao-chun's face instantly lost color. "Why you? What did you see?" "In the east pavilion of the courtyard, just now. You were together with Prince Eluz." Origa's eyes were sorrowful. "I hope you aren't hiding anything from me. Please tell me the truth." Those eyes seemed able to see through every lie. They were earnest and left no room for doubt. Gao-chun parted her lips slightly. Her gaze shifted away. Gao-chun lowered her eyes. "I am sorry. I'll tell you everything truthfully." As if she had made some kind of decision, she finally lifted her head and began recounting what had happened that day. Deep in the bamboo grove, Eluz walked toward Gao-chun. "I have something I'd like to ask of you." Gao-chun's palms grew sweaty. "Prince Eluz, what does he want from me? Could he be trying to win me over?" Eluz spoke. Actually, suddenly, pain flashed across his face, and he let out a muffled groan. He collapsed to his knees. Gao-chun rushed forward. "Why, Your Highness? Are you all right?" Gao-chun called out anxiously. "Please wake up." Origa listened to her explanation. "So you simply happened to run into Eluz, and he suddenly fell ill, and then you helped him." Gao-chun nodded. "Yes. He said he didn't want to make a big scene, and that resting for a while would be enough. So I helped him to the pavilion and stayed with him." Gao-chun continued recalling it. "After he recovered, he asked me to keep today's events secret, and then he left immediately." As soon as she finished speaking, the Eluz in her memory seemed about to say something. But his words were interrupted by something else. Gao-chun concluded, "So I never got to hear what he originally wanted from me." Origa looked thoughtful. "I see." Origa let out a breath of relief. "In any case, I'm glad you weren't colluding with Eluz. I only hope he isn't plotting something." Eluz's figure seemed to emerge from the shadows. Gao-chun puffed out her cheeks. "Lord Origa, you weren't actually suspecting me. were you? With her hands on her hips and her body leaning slightly forward, there was a trace of wounded grievance in her tone. Origa looked uncertain. No, it wasn't suspicion. I was just a little worried. He lowered his eyes. Worried that if you became my enemy, what would I do? Because I want you to stay by my side. Gao-chun froze. Lord Origa, damn it, I'll let my true feelings slip out. Origa hurriedly added, It's because you suddenly ran off like that from the start. You were in such a rush and didn't even explain where you were going. Of course I would worry. Gao-chun lowered her head. I am sorry. I just wanted to do something to make Lord Origa happy. But instead, I only made you worry. Origa was stunned. You wanted to make me happy? Gao-chun pointed outside the window. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. The moon will be beautiful. A stalk of pampas grass stood in a white porcelain vase, glowing softly in the light. I went to the courtyard to pick this. Gao-chun clasped her hands. I wanted to secretly prepare for moon viewing and surprise you. It looks like I failed. Origa stared at her blankly. What? Then the corners of his lips lifted. So all those suspicious actions were for my sake. Jeo-kun placed the pampas grass into the vase. Since you found out, if you don't mind, would you like to prepare together? Origa answered personally, All right. Teach me the traditional customs of the Bansa Kingdom. And so the peaceful days drifted by for a while. Before long, the bitter winter arrived. A porcelain cup shattered on the floor. Fragments scattered in all directions. Origa braced himself against the table and coughed violently. His body swayed as if about to collapse. With a hand over his mouth, his eyes were full of pain. Origa suddenly coughed harder. Gao-chun rushed forward to support him. Your Highness! Origa raised a hand to stop her, his gaze unfocused. Sorry. I'm Yufine. Gao-chun stood by Origa's bed. He had been bedridden often lately. Coming from the warm Yufei kingdom, the cold of Bansa was beyond imagination. In the past few days his condition had worsened. His face was pale and his breathing was labored. Gao-chun gazed at the snowflakes falling beyond the window, wishing she could do something for him. Several days later, Origa sat upright. His complexion improved. Gao-chun suddenly burst in. Your Highness. She spread out a brown woolen coat, her smile warm. If you wear this, you won't be cold in winter. Origa lay on the bed as Gao-chun handed him the coat. Is this for me? Origa looked puzzled. Gao-chun nodded with a smile, though her face was heavy with the weariness of many sleepless nights. Yes, I thought you might feel cold in Bansa. Origa's fingertips brushed the coat. Did you make it yourself? Origa draped the coat over himself. Wow, it really is warm, and it fits perfectly too. He crossed his arms around himself, savoring a warmth he had not felt in a long time. It was like being wrapped in a gentle embrace. The size is just right, too. Origa looked up at Gao-chun. Thank you, Gao-chun. Gao-chun looked at him with relief. That coat suits you so well. Turum came over with his arms folded and asked Gao-chun, Gao-chun, didn't you make one for me too? This one is only for His Highness Origa. Your Majesty, don't you already have a much more splendid fur coat? Turum lowered his head with a light laugh. That's a pity. Turum walked over to Origa. Origa, let me try it too. Origa wrapped the coat more tightly around himself. No, this is mine. The corners of Turum's lips lifted. Gao-chun looked at him. Your Majesty, why have you come? Turum's expression turned serious. Right? It's not good news. Turum's voice echoed. Father says he is holding a court banquet on the day of early winter. Origa and I must both attend. Turum's profile darkened. Since it is a banquet hosted by Father, there is no telling what may happen. Origa looked worried. Be prepared. Turum turned to Gao-chun. And Gao-chun, you must attend the banquet as well. Stay by Origa's side at all times and watch for anything suspicious. Gao-chun was just about to answer yes when Origa suddenly shouted no. He grabbed Gao-chun by the wrist, his eyes resolute. It's too dangerous to take Gao-chun to a place like that. Turum sighed. Origa, I understand your concern, but one more ally is always better. That is precisely why I made Gao-chun your personal attendant. Origa glared at Turum, but Gao-chun has already been seriously injured once. I cannot let her be placed in danger. Turum's expression turned cold. Our mission itself is full of danger. Gao-chun must be prepared for that. Origa clenched his teeth, looking unwilling. Gao-chun stepped between the two men. Please calm down, both of you. She freed herself from Origa's grip. I'm going to the banquet too. Gao-chun, you don't have to come. There's no need to force yourself. I'm not forcing myself, Your Highness Origa. Gao Chun's gaze was steady. I want to do my part as well. Her eyes were full of hope. Please don't leave me out, all right? Origa's feelings were conflicted. Gao Chun, Turum spoke. Good, that's a wise decision. Take good care of Origa. Gao Chun nodded firmly. Yes. Origa looked at Gao Chun thoughtfully. On the day of the court banquet, Your Highness Origa, this is the formal attire prepared for you. Dressed in a dark blue ceremonial robe, Origa looked dazzling. He brushed a hand over the sleeve. It's gorgeous. As expected, the clothes Gao Chun makes are my favorite. Origa smiled faintly. All right, now it's your turn. Gao Chun looked blank. My turn? Origa unfolded a pale robe trimmed in blue and white. Wear this tonight. Gao Chun looked at the gorgeous outfit. Wow, it's beautiful. She lowered her head and murmured, but someone like me, how could I wear something so splendid? Origa walked over to her. What are you saying? You are now the Empress's personal attendant. There is absolutely nothing wrong with dressing like this. Gao Chun clasped her hands together, still very hesitant. But clothes this gorgeous don't suit me. I'm not a beauty like Your Highness Origa. They'll only make the scar on my forehead stand out more. I'm sorry, especially when you prepared this for me. Origa's gaze sharpened. You really understand nothing at all. There's no doubt this outfit suits you perfectly. The corners of his lips lifted, his eyes gentle and confident. Origa pointed to the chair before the dressing table. Close your eyes and sit here. Gao Chun obediently sat down. Standing behind her, Origa said, I'll prove it to you. Turum looked toward Origa's back. Origa, are you ready for the banquet? Origa smiled faintly. Of course. Everything is ready. He turned around. Right, Gao Chun? Gao Chun gave a start. Igriegajis. Yes. Turum pressed further. Gao Chun, what are you trying to hide? Gao Chun's figure came into view. She wore an elegant robe patterned like blue flowers. Her brown hair was pinned up and adorned with delicate ornaments, and her green almond-shaped eyes held a trace of unease. Turum's gaze froze. Well, that truly is impressive. Origa, did you do this? Origa laughed softly. Of course I did. Surprised, aren't you? See? Gao Chun. Turum walked closer to her. I nearly mistook you for a noble young lady. He raised a hand to his chin. Even the scar on your forehead has been perfectly concealed by this makeup. Origa looked at Gao Chun. That outfit suits you very well, too. Gao Chun's cheeks flushed slightly. Really? Turum clasped his hands together. Good. It seems we're all ready. Turum clapped his hands. Let's go to the banquet hall. Origa and Gao Chun followed. The palace banquet hall was packed with guests. Voices filled the air. Nobles stood in small groups, talking quietly. Gondike sat at the seat of honor, looking stern. The three of them stepped forward and bowed together. Father, thank you for inviting us to tonight's banquet. Gondike gave a cold snort. At least this time, you didn't keep us waiting too long. Gondike's sharp gaze fell on Gao Chun. Is that the maid who fell into the bullring? Origa stepped forward. She is my attendant. Disdain appeared on Gondike's face. Couldn't you even bring a decent attendant from your homeland? Did you have to just grab some little girl instead? How pitiful. His scornful eyes swept across Gao Chun's face, the corner of his mouth curling in mockery, as if she were some kind of joke. Hearing that, Gao Chun's body trembled slightly, and she closed her eyes. Origa placed a hand on Gao Chun's shoulder. You're right. She is my only attendant, and she still lacks experience. His tone shifted, but she is thoughtful and capable. Most importantly, I trust her deeply. I am very fortunate to have met such a maid in the kingdom of Bansa. Gao Chun looked up, her eyes shining. Origa, Gao Chun, and Turum exchanged glances. Turum smiled faintly and bowed to Gondike. Then, Father, I'll take my leave first. Gondike watched the three of them walk away, his expression dark. A bunch of brats who don't know their place, acting like they own this place. Inside the banquet hall, Gao Chun and Origa moved through the crowd. Gao Chun's eyes were wide, her whole body stiff, her steps awkward like a puppet's. Origa took hold of her. If we act even more unnaturally, we'll only look more suspicious. Gao Chun replied in a flustered whisper, Why, you're right. But Lord Eluz. Gao Chun's gaze drifted into the distance. He's been looking this way the whole time. Eluz stood among the crowd, his eyes repeatedly drifting toward them. Meanwhile, the Emperor's guards were deliberately avoiding looking their way. Gao Chun squeezed her eyes shut and clasped her hands tightly in front of her chest. She looked suspicious from every angle. What should we do? Origa gently stroked Gao Chun's head. You're trying so hard to protect me. He smoothed her hair tenderly. His voice was light, like a feather brushing across the heart, carrying the faintest tremor. Turum looked at Orga. Be careful what you say and do. You never know who's watching and who's listening. He looked at the two of them. You two really have changed. Gaochun looked confused. Changed? Not just on the outside. A noblewoman in red watched them. Your Majesty. Gaochun turned around. Do you have a moment? It was a suspiciously sudden approach. Orga turned back. Two noble women stood before him. There is something we wish to say to you. Orga asked, what is it you want to say to me? The two women spoke in unison. Yes. The way you subdued that mad bull during the martial tournament was incredible, and your embrace with His Majesty was so moving. Orga closed his eyes. Hearing all that in public really was a little embarrassing. The two women continued, so we tried wearing clothes similar to what you wore that day. They added, since that day, red outfits have become fashionable, and so have those exotic-style accessories. Orga opened his eyes. What? A memory flashed through his mind. Dressed in red and blue, subduing the bull among the flowers. His red cloak fluttered, and Orga smiled. I hadn't even noticed. He looked a little dazed, his smile slightly bashful, unconsciously touching his cheek. Gaochun looked at Orga. So many people admired the kingdom of Yufei and adored Prince Orga. Maybe tonight would truly go smoothly. It seemed Her Majesty the Empress was popular too. The noble consort approached with several attendants. The two women hurriedly bowed. Orga immediately grew alert. This didn't feel like an ordinary greeting. Two maids followed behind the noble consort, their expressions haughty. Gaochun immediately bowed. Oh, that's right, the noble consort said, lightly waving her folding fan. Since there's an orchestra here, wouldn't it be wonderful if Her Majesty the Empress played us a piece? A faint sneer curved the noble consort's lips. A foreign princess must know at least one instrument, surely. I'm certain your skill is exquisite. Orga's expression darkened. A slight crease formed between his brows. Behind him, Gaochun covered her mouth with her hand and whispered, Can you play any instrument? Orga murmured back, I can only whistle. The noble consort's smile widened. Then let us go. It's time for you to show us your talent. Orga placed a hand over his chest, looking solemn. May I borrow your fan? Turum looked puzzled. Another form of art? The noble consort fell silent for a moment. Her eyes sharpened, and she held out the fan. Orga accepted it with a smile. Thank you. Orga glanced toward the musicians. They looked at one another. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. One musician said quietly, That's the most magnificent dance in the traditional repertoire of Yingzhou. Gaochun stood among the crowd, her face full of worry. The hall fell silent in an instant. Orga walked alone to the center of the room, onto the spread red carpet. The music abruptly stopped. A musician's fingers hovered over the strings as Orga slowly raised the red fan in his hand. Orga spun, his wide blue sleeves sweeping through the air. His golden hair traced a graceful arc. His eyes were enchanting, his lips slightly curved. It was as if flower petals were blooming around him. Gaochun's eyes widened, her lips parting. A female guest gasped, Heavens! Even the men were transfixed. So elegant and so beautiful, like a celestial being descending to earth. Orga continued to dance. Every movement was filled with both strength and beauty. The red fan opened and closed in his hand. Orga turned his body and looked back over his shoulder, his gaze dreamlike. The guests behind him watched in complete enchantment. He spread both arms, standing with the golden dragon motif on the wall behind him, as if he had become one with it. Then Orga landed lightly, and one guest cried out in admiration, What a marvelous performance! The guests applauded enthusiastically. The culture of Yufei is truly unforgettable. Orga returned the fan to the noble consort. Thank you for lending me your fan. He turned to the guests. What did you think of my dance? One female guest immediately applauded. It was absolutely wonderful. Another nodded in agreement. I'd love to see it again. Turum's gaze was complicated. It was worth seeing. Orga gave a slight bow. I'm honored that you think so. Smiling, he turned to leave. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share Yufei's culture. Orga placed a hand over his chest and bowed deeply. The hall erupted into even louder applause. Thunderous clapping filled the room. The noble consort turned and walked away, her back rigid. The noble consort stood alone before a carved wall, lost in thought. She slammed her fist against the wall. I meant to humiliate him completely. What on earth happened? Gandike's eyes were gloomy. No need to be angry. This sort of praise is only temporary. Turum bowed slightly. I apologize for my mother's behavior. And thank you for handling it so well. Gao-chun clasped her hands together. Your dance was incredible. It really startled me. Orga smiled faintly. Actually, that was a sword dance. He lightly touched his lower lip with his fingertips. I simply used a fan in place of a sword. Fortunately, the reaction was good. The two women hurried over, their eyes shining with excitement, their cheeks slightly flushed. That dance hardly seemed humanly possible. It was overwhelming, especially that look at the end. For a moment, I thought you were really going to. Gao-chun patted her chest, still shaken. Good thing it was only a performance. Orga looked at them gently. Thank you. One guest stepped forward and asked, would you teach that dance to my daughter? Another guest said expectantly, I want to paint Her Majesty while she dances. I hope others can feel this beauty too. Gao-chun looked at Orga. He really looked happy. Everyone present must have come away with a favorable impression of both the kingdom of Yufei and Prince Orga. Gao-chun watched Orga speaking with the guests. It was only a brief exchange at a banquet, but if even this small bit of goodwill could keep building up, then perhaps one day Yingzhuan and the kingdom of Yufei truly could become allies. A woman suddenly bumped into Gao-chun. Gao-chun quickly apologized. I'm sorry. Gao-chun saw the woman's face clearly. Senorita? Rita's gaze was icy. We meet again. In a place like this? Rita was carrying a tea tray, her expression unfriendly. Gao-chun froze, at a loss. Rita spoke coldly. What exactly are you doing now? Here I am, your senior, busy clearing away dishes, while you're all dressed up and sitting here. Do you really think that's appropriate? These clothes don't suit you at all. Rita looked at her with contempt. Stop fooling yourself like an idiot. Gao-chun clenched her fists. And no, that's not true. Her Highness Nazina said it suited me very well. I can't let such petty provocation shake me. Gao-chun straightened her back. It may sound presumptuous, but I'm doing everything I can to carry out my duties properly. Even this outfit was carefully chosen because I serve directly as Her Majesty the Empress's personal maid. Rita turned her face aside. Her Majesty the Empress's personal maid? Rage flared in her eyes. Who do you think you are? How arrogantly you speak. The nearby guests began glancing over and whispering. What's going on? Are they fighting? Gao-chun bit her lip. This is bad. We can't cause a scene here. Gao-chun turned and quickly walked away. Rita shouted after her. Stop right there. Orga turned, his gaze sharp. Night had fallen. The courtyard was brightly lit, with points of light reflected on the water. Rita caught up to Gao-chun and blocked her path. Rita was furious. How could you possibly be Her Majesty the Empress's personal maid? It makes no sense. My father is an officer of Yingzhuan. Compared to some country bumpkin like you, I'm far better suited to that position. You must have gotten it by flattering people and currying favor. The hand holding Rita's tea tray trembled slightly. You sly little fox. Rita suddenly threw the tea at Gao-chun. Gao-chun froze in place as the tea soaked her clothes. All of Gao-chun's careful preparations were ruined in an instant. Serves you right. Gao-chun glared at Rita. What did you say? Rito schnered. Who do you think you are? She smiled smugly, lightly supporting her chin with one hand. Go back to work. I'm the same as ever. Gao-chun looked at her and said mockingly, if you want to work beside the Empress that badly, then go do it yourself. Rita snapped, what did you say? In the distance, a blonde figure came into view. It was Orga. His expression was cold. Rita shot back. Even if you're the Empress's personal maid, in the end you're just serving someone from Yufei. Right now the Empress only stands out because of that foreign exotic appeal, but he'll be abandoned soon enough. Gao-chun stood still, lowering her eyes, her expression darkening. I can hardly wait for the day he is cast aside, just like Danav, crying as he runs back to his own country. Gao-chun's face flushed with anger. You are not allowed. You're not allowed to insult Her Majesty the Empress. Gao-chun suddenly overturned the tea tray. Rita let out a scream. Gao-chun shouted angrily. Her Majesty is working hard to improve relations between our two countries. At tonight's banquet, he fulfilled his duty magnificently as well. Rita fell to the ground, drenched, trembling as she pushed herself up. Gao-chun demanded, how dare you insult someone like that? Determination burned in Gao-chun's eyes. I will never forgive you. She looked down at Rita from above. What? You've been acting superior this whole time, but you're nothing more than a bumpkin who can't do anything. Gao-chun stared straight at Rita. You rely on your parents' influence and never strive to improve yourself. That's why no one can entrust you with any real responsibility. Rita shuddered, her lips turning pale. Gao Chun gave a small, contemptuous laugh. If you have nothing more to say, then go back to work. Unable to bear the humiliation, Rita ran off. Gao Chun looked down at her own outfit. It had been so carefully prepared by the prince. Orga walked over. Gao Chun, are you all right? Gao Chun hurriedly tried to straighten herself up. Orga stepped closer slowly. I saw everything. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it. Orga reached out and gently lifted Gao Chun's chin. Gao Chun stopped him. Don't. Your clothes will get dirty. He wiped her cheek with a handkerchief. It's fine. Don't move. There are broken teacups on the ground. But I was so angry. I lost my head. Orga's sleeve brushed against her gently as he looked at Gao Chun. But overturning the tea tray like that, wasn't that just like smashing jade in anger? Wasn't it? But that's exactly what makes you special. Gao Chun's cheeks reddened, her eyes widening in surprise. Orga lowered his eyes. You should have ignored what they were saying about me. Gao Chun suddenly turned away, her face burning red. We should go back to the banquet hall. Everyone is probably waiting for you. Seeing how flustered she was, he asked, What's wrong? Orga smiled faintly. All right, everyone seems very curious about the outfit I wore at the bullfight. Gao Chun froze. Are you talking about me? I told them I'd introduce the maid who made that outfit. Orga held out his hand. Cool, mate. Let's go together. Gao Chun looked at Orga hesitantly, then gently placed her hand in his palm. Yes. Suddenly, a scream tore through the night, followed by the violent crash of shattered porcelain. Orga spun around at once and pulled Gao Chun behind him. What was that sound? Orga wrapped an arm around Gao Chun, shielding her tightly in his embrace. An assassin's dagger rushed toward them in an instant. A black-clad assassin burst through and hit the ground hard. Rolling up at once, the assassin's dagger flashed coldly in his hand. It shot straight toward Orga. Murderous intent surged forth. The dagger's sharp point rapidly filled Orga's vision. Orga pulled Gao Chun into his arms, shielding her tightly. The assassin's dagger was already almost upon them. Gao Chun's eyes flew wide. No, if this keeps going, Your Highness Orga. Blood splattered. A figure suddenly rushed in and blocked the attack in front of Orga. The assassin's dagger was seized tightly by one arm, blood pouring down. A silver-haired man stood before them, his eyes icy. Palace guards were already moving to handle the chaos. Orga still held the shaken Gao Chun. One guard rushed over and stretched out his arm protectively in front of them. Take Her Majesty somewhere safe at once, and report this to His Majesty Turum. The guard's arms formed a human wall, shutting the commotion out. Orga's embrace was still warm, but Gao Chun's pounding heart had yet to calm. The guests looked at one another. What happened? Isn't that man one of Prince Orga's enemies? The guards escorted Orga to a room. Please wait here for the time being. It is safe here. Orga sat in silence. Gao Chun asked anxiously, over there. Were you hurt? Orga suddenly hugged Gao Chun. He pulled her tightly into his arms. Gao Chun, thank goodness. I'm so glad you're safe. I feel the same. Gao Chun could feel Orga trembling. Your Highness Orga. He's shaking. She raised a hand and gently touched his cheek. I'm glad you're unharmed too, Your Majesty. The warmth of his skin traveled through her fingertips. The air seemed to freeze. Time itself seemed to stop. They only wanted this moment to last 1 second longer. Then both of them suddenly came back to themselves. They quickly separated. A guard came down the steps. Are you all right? Were either of you injured? Origan said, No, I'm fine. One guard turned toward Gao Chun. Just in case, I'll escort you to the Imperial Palace. Please take my hand. Gao Chun's pupils contracted as she stared at the outstretched hand in shock. That hand was both familiar and strange. Memory and reality overlapped in an instant. She sprang to her feet. No, Your Majesty, run. A streak of blood cut across the palace. It splashed onto the ornate bead curtain. Gao Chun clapped both hands over her mouth and let out a short scream. She saw Orga collapse to the ground. The guard turned and fled. Gao Chun dropped to her knees beside Orga. Your Majesty. 2 officials looked on in horror, whispering, What's happening? The Empress has been cut. Orga's body swayed. He steadied himself. I was just startled. I'm all right. Orga was exposed before everyone. 2 women leaned close together, whispering, their faces full of shock. Isn't that? Panic began spreading through the crowd. What's going on? Gao Chun hurried forward, her eyes fixed ahead. Origa had fallen to the floor. His blue outer robe had been cut open, and a bloody gash ran across his chest. His Majesty's chest. Origa's blue eyes flew wide, his pupils shrinking. The Empress is a man? The crowd instantly exploded in uproar. The Empress was actually a man. Gao Chun's gaze went past the crowd and landed on the retired emperor. Gondike watched without expression. He stood there coldly, a faint sneer lifting the corner of his mouth. Everything had been under his control all along. This was a trap. The assassin incident had only been a decoy. The real goal had been to reveal Origa's true identity at the moment he let his guard down. Origa lowered his head and looked at the wound on his chest. So the Emperor had known all along that I was a man. The light in Origa's eyes dimmed. Cold sweat slid down his cheek. One official suddenly turned around and drew his sword. Guards surged forward. The official pointed at Origa, his voice icy. "Seize that fraud who pretended to be Princess Nazina. And don't let that maid go either." A guard grabbed Gao Chun by the arm. She turned back in terror. "Your Majesty!" Origa cried out hoarsely. Gao Chun, he was pinned down by the guards and couldn't move. The lights of the palace flickered in the night like dying flames. Gao Chun curled up in the corner of a storeroom, hugging herself. She had been taken there and imprisoned separately from Origa. She had no idea how Origa was doing or where he was now. The heavy bar on the door sounded, and the storeroom door slowly opened. Gao Chun suddenly lifted her head. "Who's there?" A familiar voice rang out. "Gao Chun, are you here?" A figure loomed over her. Gao Chun looked up in shock. "Your Majesty?" Turum stood before her. Gao Chun asked, "How did you find me?" Turum answered calmly, "I have allies in the palace. Thanks to them, you were spared interrogation and brought here. And I was able to come without drawing notice." Hope lit up Gao Chun's eyes. "Then is Prince Origa with you too?" Turum shook his head. "No, Origa is receiving treatment. That talk of interrogation was only a pretext. The lie can no longer be maintained." Gao Chun sucked in a breath. "How can that be? How could Prince Origa be interrogated? Soon, you two will be tortured. Run before that happens." Turum shoved a bundle into Gao Chun's arms. "I pack your things for you. There's some money in there too." Gao Chun clutched the bundle tightly. "What about Prince Origa then?" Turum lowered his eyes. Gao Chun's expression froze. "I can't leave Prince Origa behind and run away alone. I have to find a way to save him." Then it hit her, the killing intent in Turum's words. "No, I have to save him." Turum closed his eyes. "Gao Chun, I admire your resolve, but what can a mere maid do?" Turum clenched his fists. "I promised Origa that I would not let you fall into danger again." Worry filled Gao Chun's green eyes as she murmured, "What will happen to Prince Origa and to you?" Turum looked resolute. "His fate and mine have long been intertwined. I will do everything I can to save him, and then we will find a way out together." On the palace rooftop, the night lay silent, like an enormous prison. Turum moved aside a floor tile, revealing a pitch-black opening. "This is a secret passage." Holding a candlestick, Turum knelt beside the entrance. "Use it to escape." Gao Chun took the candlestick Turum handed her. The candlelight flickered. "Please save Prince Origa." Turum looked at her steadily. "I promise you. I swear it." Gao Chun let go, tears glimmering in her eyes. She gripped the candlestick tightly. To prevent the scandal from leaking out, the retired emperor ordered that all guests who had attended the banquet be confined within the palace. Rumors spread everywhere. "The Empress is a man." The news spread like plague. A noblewoman whispered to her companion. The story passed from maid to maid, multiplying until the entire palace buzzed with gossip. An official rushed toward Turum. "Your Majesty Turum, this is a disgrace beyond bearing. They dared send a man disguised as a princess to marry into our nation. We cannot tolerate such humiliation." The official was indignant. "We must immediately annul the alliance and declare war on Yufei." Turum's face was dark, and he said nothing. Another official stepped forward. "Before that, we must execute that criminal." Gandike's gaze swept over Turum. "As an example to Yufei." "Turum, do you agree?" Turum's profile was taut. Cold sweat slid down his face, his eyes flickering. If this continued, Origa really would be executed. Turum remembered the wedding scene. Origa dressed in red, his golden hair dazzling. Turum's gaze grew heavy. "So that's it. Father is serious. He is not some disposable piece on a board. He is Prince Origa of the Kingdom of Yufei. In order to preserve the alliance between our two nations, he willingly came in place of Princess Nazina." One official demanded sharply, "Do you understand what you're saying? That means you were in on it too." Turum looked directly at the official. "Yes." That's right. An uproar rose through the crowd. What? The officials whispered to one another. You are truly in league with the Yufei royal family? Turum answered calmly, for the sake of peace. It was an unavoidable choice. I am sorry for deceiving everyone. Then his tone changed. But Gondike cut in, his voice dripping with contempt. You are my son, yet you are this pathetic. You have committed the grave crime of treason. Turum turned to face the retired emperor, his back straight. The old ruler's eyes were full of disappointment. Passing the throne to you was a mistake. I'm taking it back. Turum, 2 guards moved to seize the retired emperor. Take this fool away. He is not to leave the palace. Turum's eyes instantly sharpened, cold as a death sentence. His pupils contracted with disbelief as he stared at his father. Father, what are you planning to do? The doors slammed shut. The retired emperor sat upon the throne, 2 officials kneeling before him. Now, the fate of the kingdom of Yufei lies in our hands. He folded his hands together, his eyes cold and sinister. A political storm was about to descend. The retired emperor lowered his gaze. Let's continue the meeting. Night blanketed the palace, and the moonlight was cold. Carrying a bundle on her back, Gao Chun ran down the palace corridor. She was panting hard, her steps hurried. Gao Chun looked back over her shoulder, tense. She absolutely could not get caught. The palace lay quiet in the night. Gao Chun ran alone. She finally stopped, gasping for breath, when a voice came from behind her. Gao Chun. Gao Chun spun around. Doji was standing there. Doji, he had once advised me to resign from being a maid because it was too dangerous. And now, even if he called me foolish, I wouldn't be able to argue. Gao Chun opened her mouth. Doji, her voice caught her throat. What happened? Doji reached out a hand. Gao Chun. Doji suddenly pulled Gao Chun into his arms tightening around her shoulders. His voice sounded beside her ear. I'm so glad you're here. Tears shimmered in Gao Chun's green eyes as she answered softly, Doji,